So let's go back to, let's just start off with the 1992 urban uprising,
Yeah.
LA riots, whatever you might want to call it. You're learning about what's going on while you're sitting in the cell. Do you remember where you were at and what was going on through your mind when you're seeing this or hearing about this?
Yeah, in 92, I was actually in New Folsom. I was coming from Pelican Bay. I went to New Folsom, and I was in my cell, and I can tell you, just seeing the images of people I knew, like struggling with the police, fighting with the police right here on 71st, right around the corner. A neighborhood that I'm familiar with, that I was here every day. In fact, like I alluded to earlier, I committed a crime right here. I murdered someone right here on this corner back in 1985, September the 7th. But also, I mean, it brings back so many memories because I've had a few of my childhood friends, a few of my homeboys who also caught a murder, as you say, caught a murder, right? Committed a crime over here, a gang-related crime, and went to prison as well. And I remember one time, I was 15 years old. I was at that bus stop right across the street. I was standing there, and I was cripped down, as we say, and a car turned the corner on 71st. They jumped out the car. What? Golf clubs, bats, sticks, beat my ass right there at the bus stop. And them definitely was our rivals. So it's interesting how to be here on this corner and knowing the viciousness that has occurred here. Some of my homies got shot over here on this corner. So it is mind-boggling being here today. And especially when I was inside the cell and knowing that I came from this environment and seeing it on the television, you know, like it brought up just so many memories of, you know, where I came from and also how disheartening it was to see where we were as a society.
Do you remember any of those guys that were being profiled in the news, being dragged through the court system that were from over here while you were watching this on your, I'm assuming, a television in your cell?
Of course, Damien and Kiki, without a doubt. Young Damien, it's interesting. So young Damien, little football, his brother's football, and his brother, we were childhood friends, and we grew up, you know, being involved in the same gang. And it's interesting. Damien was still a youngster when I got incarcerated in '85. That isn't to take anything from him, but he definitely was a badass. He definitely used to be in, you know, cutting up, to say the least. But it was interesting to see, you know, how the community had evolved and how it got to the point where it exploded, you know, right here in my neighborhood, and feeling the connection to the people that initially was involved in the riot.
And you mentioned Kiki. That's Henry Keith Watson. He's still around here to this day.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Well, let's go back to some of your earlier years before we talk about the act you committed here. Where were you born, and what area did you grow up in?
Okay, so I was born at the General Hospital, right? Used to live right there on 71st and Harvard as a toddler. And our family moved. We moved to 51st and Normandie. And so I basically, you know, grew up at 51st and Normandie.
And how did you, 51st and Normandie is slightly outside of the turf. How did you end up gravitating to a little bit more south to start hanging out with all the guys from Eight Tray?
So I'm gonna say it like this: junior high school. You know, I went to John Muir, right? Basically, initially, I wasn't even considering, you know, being involved in gangs in any shape, form, or fashion. I mean, I was basically living my own life. I used to consider myself like a player and a hustler, like, you know, even as a kid. But one day when I was coming home from school, I got jumped on by some LA brims. And so after that happened, I immediately started, you know, looking around my environment, and I just had a knack based on some of the traumas that I experienced as a child. I just had a knack for wanting revenge. So one of my homeboys, when we were going to John Muir, I just basically was like, you know what? I want to be from Eight Tray, right? And I'm gonna tell you, that was a tall task. Can you imagine coming over from out of the 50s into this neighborhood, right? Saying I want to be from Eight Tray. So in order for that to happen, that means that I had to like really, you know, be able to represent. So I can tell you that in 79, 13 years old, is when I started coming over here. And I remember, like when I got put on, right there on 79th and Western, I went to a party. It was the first gangster party that I went to. And I can tell you, it was just something about that party, like with everybody in there, the cultural aspect of what it means to be gangster, right? With the style of dress, you know, the Penitents, the 501s, the Romeos, the Stacys, right? So you had that element. You had the Parliament Funkadelic. You had the dancing and you had the gang sign. You had like a party just being turned up. And so for me, as a 13-year-old kid, that was really exciting to me. And I recall that party initially got turned out because the homies they ended up like shooting outside. There were some shootings that took place. And so when I came outside, this is the first time I saw a monster, Cody Scott. Monster had 2 shotguns on his shoulders with a bebop hat, and he had back in the day what we call bomber jackets, but we refer to them as Crip coats. And so he was walking around with 2 shotguns on his shoulders, and when I saw that, I was like, wow, because it was like that was what power looked like. And for me, throughout all my life, whenever I saw something that I wanted to gravitate toward or that influenced me, then that's what I wanted to become, because that was the height of what it meant to be gangster at that point in time.
Now, Monster Cody Scott was about 4 years older than you.
3.
And seeing a guy like that doing what he was doing, was that someone that you eventually came up under while you was on your journey into the hood?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, we ran together often. We were engaged in a lot of different crimes together. Yeah. Someone who I was with regularly.
Okay, so before that party and before you got put on, I'm curious to know, you went to John Muir and you lived in the 50s. How come 5 Deuce Hoover, you didn't gravitate to 5 Deuce Hoover? Because I'm assuming at John Muir, a bunch of Hoovers were there. You live in basically kind of live in the Hoovers. What happened there?
Well, see, it wasn't even about that. It was about, so yeah, I used to sit at the Crip table, right, with the Crips. And initially, it was just something about one of my homies that was from Eight Tray. It was just something about his style that I liked. You understand? So I'm influenced by my environment. So the people who influenced me, those are the people that I gravitated towards, and those are the people that I emulated, and those are the people that I strive to be like, or either be better than, so to speak.
Okay. So. Was the North Side already a thing at the time? When did the sides come out? I'm assuming at some point you ended up representing the North Side since you lived over there, and Cody was from the North as well. Talk about how did that all get established?
So the North Side wasn't established, of course, in 1979. I can tell you, when that came in, it wasn't even really about any other gangs in terms of North Side, South Side, and West Side. This was just something that we were doing internally. So we can like this is what this is something that it was like it was love and it was playfulness. Homies from the South Side or homies from the West Side. You know what I mean? Because when you get right down to it, we all from the West, right? And so it wasn't even about like banging North Side Eight Tray Gangster. That just was something that we did internally. And then it became like, okay, this is this section of the hood, this is this section of the hood in terms of that.
Do you recall when that kind of got started? And
what I want to say about either 80 or 81. 80 or 81. As a matter of fact, Pepperdine dugouts. I remember being down in the Pepperdine dugouts. So I don't know if they still have them dugouts over there, but there was some dugouts that we used to hang out in, and we had like a meeting there, and I can recall when the homie Lil Crazy D, like how he wrote down North Side, right, ETG, and so that was really interesting. And then we also developed how we threw it up back then. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Now you got put on in '79. Do you recall if it was before March when y'all was still cool with the '60s, or did you get put on after March of '79 when sort of the conflict and the war was in motion?
So let me say, before I got put on, right, I used to claim Eight Tray. Right, and at that time, it was around March, because that was around my birthday when I turned 13, and so, but I didn't get put on until later on that year, and that was actually, I think it was around October of '79.
Okay, so the war with the '60s was in full effect by that time.
Well, not necessarily. I want to say that there was the beefing between the Eight Trays and the '60s didn't start initially when the first shooting took place, because at first we were trying to work it out. I'm gonna say they were trying to work it out because I was a newborn at that point in time, and so I was just following, right? I'm gonna say the homies were trying to work it out, but unfortunately, it wasn't resolved. And so it's my understanding that the first shooting didn't take place until September of that year. And so after that took place, the first time, when I'm gonna say when Tyrone was killed, was in September of that year. And so, and then immediately after that, like soon as I got put on, it was almost like we was, going to war with them. But it wasn't as intense until like, I'm I'm gonna say, yeah, about 80, 81, 82, yeah.
You remember who were some of the first homies from over here that were casualties of that?
Let me see, well, I'm gonna say Lucky, that was Cute's brother who stayed right over here around the corner. Bam, the homie Roach, the homie Tit, yes. And I say, I was also like in and out of juvenile hall, in and out of camp, like nobody's business, right? So I got kicked out of 7 different junior high schools, right? So I started banging when I went to John Muir, and I got kicked out of John Muir for gang activity. My counselor saw me and some of the homies chasing rival gang members down the street of the school, so I immediately was kicked out. And so once I had that jacket on me as a gang member, it's like the schools no longer tolerated anything I done. So I went to what? I went to Carver, I went to Bethune, Audubon, Gompers, where else? Henry Clay, Bret Hart. Yeah, so it's interesting because all during that time, I was representing the set, right? And so I'm meeting different people, whether they're allies from Eight Tray or they're rivals. And so I met a lot of people during the time, like I was going to the different junior high schools. So by the time I went to juvenile hall, all the fuck-ups who were fucking up in school were basically in juvenile hall, right? So when I was in juvenile hall, I was representing, at that point in time, it was on site, right? And what's interesting is how at first it was how the beef just intensified between the Eight Trays in the 60s. And how, like, it was on site. Like I was a full representative. Anybody during any one of those phases, they can tell you how I represented in terms of me being involved in the gang culture. Like, but I think it's important for me to say, like, that's who I was then, and I'm no longer involved in gang activity in any shape, form, and fashion. As a matter of fact, I think it's important for me to say that my objective today is we can quell the violence. I mean, because all the things that I was doing when I was involved in activities, it was straight ignorance. But it was exciting to me. And that seemed like the death style that I wanted to be a part of. But after suffering the consequences as a result of gang activity, and it's all for what? So now I think it's important to be able to come back, because I was involved in so much of the violent aspect of banging, right? Now I want to come back to the hood to do my part when it comes to restorative justice principles, right? And what does that mean? For me, that means being able to repair the harm between the communities, between the neighborhoods, right? Because while I was on the inside, I mean, like, there was no gang rivalry, right? Like, there were guys on the inside who we were beefing on site, on the street, and doing our time in juvenile hall, right? But then in that setting, here it was, there can be times when we would have to have each other's back, you know what I mean? Fighting back to back. And so it just basically was a matter of us respecting one another, right? Respecting one another, and with that respect, there just weren't any issues because we knew where we came from. And it was like we had nothing to prove.
Are we going to get into some of the serious consequences that you suffered, especially when we go to our second location, where, you know, we're going to get deep into some of that, man. And so you can speak on that. I'm definitely going to steer the conversation to that direction. You mentioned all the schools you attended. I didn't hear you say Horace Mann, which is a very popular school for this community. Was that just a school you were avoiding because you knew it was going to be just a few days there?
No, I wasn't avoiding it. I went wherever they sent me. Okay. I went to Gompers. I went all around. Gompers, Audubon, Bethune, Bret Harte. It was where they sent me. And I can tell you this, I got kicked out of for gambling, leaving school without permission, getting smart with the teacher, right? Leaving the class without permission, being threatened by other gang members, fighting. Like those were things I was kicked out for, like for getting smart with the teacher, right? Like that's what I got kicked out of Audubon for. And I could tell you, it definitely was different hot spots. Like wherever we were all integrated. Like it didn't make no difference where you were from. Like when it came to you banging, it was the same consequence. You're involved in the delinquency, which ultimately you end up getting kicked out of school, going to other schools, going to continuation schools. Man, as a matter of fact, I got kicked out of Los Angeles Unified School District altogether and sent to an all-boys school in East Los Angeles, Jackson High. So I was at the end of the line right there, right? For all the fuck-ups, right? So, I mean, that's just what I was about, right? And so, and I was there for about a month before I went to jail and did time in camp for a robbery.
Now, when you went to camp in juvenile hall, I'm assuming you're meeting people from different neighborhoods that you never heard of, from different sets. Do you recall some of the people that you've actually met as the juvenile hall that became known dudes in the streets years later?
Hey, you know what? To be real with you, man, during my time, I have like a fog. I have like a fog. It's like it's people who approach me all the time. You remember me? You remember when we was this? And it's like, as a matter of fact, one of the persons E-Man from East Coast. Like we was back in LP together, right? And I mean, there's just so many people, right? And I was the type of person where when you talk about arrogance, like I thought I was the hardest. I thought my set was the hardest. I thought I had to be hard. I didn't really give a fuck. Like, yeah, I was down with other Crips. We was down. We was in the moment. And so it was just so far ago. And even my time in prison, right? I can't tell you about all the people that I ran across. But I can tell you one thing, like, I'm also not the type of person who name drop. You know what I'm saying? The people back in those days, they know. They know. So it's not about me, name dropping who and what. You know what I'm saying? But yeah.
Now, when you came on the block and got put on in '79.
But so let me say this. So I was at LP. I was at Central. And Sylmore. And I went to what's it called? It's in Lancaster, Mariloma. Yeah.
So how did you get the name?
Joker. Okay, so one of the homies said that I have a smile. When I smile like Joker. And so they just start calling me Joker, right? And that was a name that eventually, actually that was a name that, just to keep it real with you, man, Cadillac Bob. I got that Cadillac Bob from Fire Deuce started calling me Joker. And it was just, I can remember, we were like at this function, and I just remember he was like, man, you look like the Joker from off Batman. It's Joker. And so I remember him and his brother. And then my little brother was also around. And so I took that name on Joker, even before I started claiming Eight Tray. At that time, I used to call myself a player. And it actually, you know, on 51st, it was a few of us who used to call ourselves players. And so we had these little, like those black Batman jackets. And then we got like the right letters on it. So I had Joker on my breast, and I had International Playboy on the back of the jacket. Yeah.
Okay, so in '79, when you was just a kid hanging out in the hood here, two major things happened. First it was Tookie got arrested, and then Raymond got killed. Now I understand Tookie actually and Cody were pretty tight during the years. He gets arrested, I believe February or March of '79. Did you ever get some good Tookie stories from Cody?
Let me say, so things like that in the neighborhood, those were things a lot of the homies used to like imitate Took. They would say stuff that he did. Like one of the things I heard him say is, I'm Big Took. I'll whip you. I'll whip your mama. I'll whip your daddy. I'll whip you. I'm Big Took, right? So those were things that I recall him saying. And also, it was just a way of carrying yourself. It was just a way of carrying yourself. It was also a way of dressing. It was also being physically fit, right? I mean, I can tell you, like, we all had backyards with benches and weights in them, right? And yeah, so people would imitate Took, because he also would be like, I'm pretty, right? So it's interesting seeing where it is today compared to where it was then, because as a teenager and a youngster, it wasn't all about that for me. It was just about the excitement, you know, of being with other wild-ass teenagers who were dealing with their own traumas and grief, right? And environmental factors. And so it was just like a concoction of us, like, you know, when we got together, validating one another for how violent we can be. So for me, that's what it was about. It was about the excitement of being a part of a culture, of a crew that was really, it was just really exciting. You know, the foolishness that we were involved in, that was it was the validation. You see, I remember one of the first things, like getting involved in this activity. Of course, you have to demonstrate that that you worthy of hanging around. And I'm gonna tell you this: anybody couldn't just be from Eight Tray. I'm gonna tell you, I done seen all kind of people get, as they say, DP at the park, on the street, on the corner, anything, right? And of course, you got people that's gonna try you. And of course, I had people who tried me, and of course, I had to defend myself. I'm gonna share this with you. One of the ones Opie, rest in peace. Me and Opie, like coming along, Opie swore up and down that I was a brim. Opie also was one of the ones that was there when I got put on. And so Opie, along with the other homies who put me on, like I ended up getting like 2 black eyes. So fighting back is fighting back. But, you know, getting hands put on you is getting hands put on you. So I will tell you this. I was able to get like 2 of the people, two of the homies who put hands on me, I was able to get them back. And you know what? It was the older homies instigating it. And I can remember being over Cody's house, and Opie was there. And Cody instigated that. So we had a chance to go one-on-one. And so, but Opie's, rest in peace, he's no longer here, so I'm not gonna speak on the outcome of that. But Opie is definitely someone that we was able to resolve the issues we had when I first started coming around the neighborhood. Another one was Lil GC. I can remember we were going to a party in the 90s. And back in the day, we used to do a whole lot of walking. And as we're walking through the neighborhood, you would see different homies on different corners, hitting different blocks. And you'll meet up, and then you'll continue walking. And I can recall I'm walking with it was about 8 or 9 of us, and we walking down 89th Street, right off of Normandie. And Lil GC, one of the ones who put hands on me when I got put on, he's talking shit behind me, right? And the homeboy Crazy D, he say, "Hey Joker," he say, you don't gotta put up with that." I say, "I don't?" He go, "No." As soon as he said that, I turned around, put hands on Lil GC. Lil GC had this leather jacket on. I was lighting that leather jacket up, man. But it's interesting though, you know what I mean, to go back in those times. And it just goes to show you, like, when it came to being revenge, not wanting to be victimized, like that was my narrative. Like I didn't want to be the victim. So, and so what that means, for me, being involved in violent activities, that was nothing. I mean, for me, because what that did was it validated my peers. And I would be like, "Oh, you thought that was something? Wait till you see this." So, you know, they'd be like, did you see what Joker did? So that was that validation, right? And so that ended up evolving into a reputation. Because not only did I do that, I used to like do a whole lot of like what they call tagging now. I used to write on the walls all the time. You know what I mean? My name, the set, and then I used to cross out, you know, who our rivals were. You know what I'm saying?
Now, you mentioned Opie, who used to live in the 60s, I think on 66 or 67th.
Yeah.
And I heard he used to get into it a lot with guys over there that were trying to start another clique called 6-7 Neighborhood Crip. It eventually became 6-7 Neighborhood Crip. I think they started off as hustlers. Did you ever have any run-ins over there with the guys that were trying to start their thing over there on 67th Street?
A few times. And, you know, and of course, you know, the end result was being involved in violence. But I can tell you, I can recall one day, because 67 was also a street that we sold weed on that street. It was a dope street. So people would drive up the street. And that was interesting, like when I got out of youth authority, how things had changed, how like it was just a dope street. But in any event, I can recall one day I'm riding around on a bike, and I turn up, what's that? Raymond. No, not Raymond, Buttlong. Yeah, Buttlong. Buttlong is 67. And I see dudes in the car. And I'm seeing, you know, hoods. When I'm seeing, so I know what that looked like. And again, you know, I'm not gonna be nobody's victims, right? So I end up having to like drop my bike and run, right? And so it was about 4 or 5 who jumped out the car, so I end up getting away. But again, anytime something happened to me, it was always about me retaliating.
So apparently Opie had that whole section supposedly under control, but then one day he gets into a conflict and somebody shot him.
Well,
did that happen before you went to?
So I was locked up when Opie got killed in '83, and Opie got killed by the rivals. So it wasn't that he got into a conflict. It was a gang-related killing. So I was locked up in 1983. I was in youth authority. Yeah, as a matter of fact, like I was in camp, 80 to 81. I got out in 81. I stayed out for 1 month. As a matter of fact, look, irony. I went to camp initially because we were over the homeboy house, Lil D's, and the homies, they had bikes out in the front. You know, we'd be in the shack, so they had bikes out in the front. So I went, got on the bike, went to the store with another one of my homies over there on 79th, 70th and Normandie. 79th, 78th and Normandie, 78th, right? So I go there, and then a police car pulled me over. It's a dude in the back seat. And he told the police that I took his bike, that I came out the liquor store and raised my shirt up and rode off on his bike. The truth of the matter was, I didn't take his bike, and I don't know who took his bike. His bike was over at the homie spot, so I picked that bike up and started riding it. So I go to camp for that. Out of all the things I go to camp for, something I didn't do. Now, I was active. I was doing all kind of shit. Now, I would tell you if I took the bike. So the irony is, on this very corner, when I got out of camp, I saw the person who testified on me when I was at this bus stop getting ready to go to school, right? I pulled out my gun. Of course, I had a gun, and I shot at him, right? He rolled through that alley right there on Florence. And then he lied. He told them that he saw me. He told them that I shot at him again right here at this intersection on Florence and Normandie, a second time. But that was a lie. But that lie caused them to come to my house and arrest me. So I went to a camp for assault with a deadly weapon. Youth authority for assault with a deadly weapon.
So twice over the same guy.
Twice over the same guy. Now, but look, now check this out. Full circle moment. When I got out of youth authority, I saw him again at Hamburger Henry's up the street. But at this time, I'm like, I ain't fucking with it. So when I saw him, you know what? It was just over. It was just bygones. It was like I had outgrown that. You know what I mean? And so at that, yeah. And so that was 1985 when I got out.
Were you ever in camp or
80, I got out in 84 and I stayed out for a year and a half.
Okay. Were you ever in camp or YA with Cody?
We were in juvenile hall in Central together. I can remember the first time, I remember when I saw him in juvenile hall. We were in, what they call that unit when you first go through? So you go to one unit and then they send you to the unit you're gonna go to. Anyway, as soon as I come walking through the door, I see Cody. And this was after he got shot. Because he had his cast on his arm. And so, like we were sitting in the day room, chatting it up, and I'm gonna just tell you, man, there's just something about his personality, man. He had a whole lot of charisma. You know, just being around him, he was a life of party. He was a jokester, full of sense of humor, but at the same time, he'll turn on your ass like 90 going north. Like, that's just who he was, right? And he didn't give a fuck pretty much who he was. That was just how it's get. That's just who he was. He had like a Dr. Jekyll personality, you know. But
did he ever flip out on you or any of your homies?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I lost 232s from Coley. Yeah. He got me for 232s back in the day. He sure did. He did. You know, and he was mad at me because, you know, his expectation is that I'm just supposed to just give them to him. But I'm like, my mentality is, I gotta have guns for myself. Like, you know what I mean? I got this gun. This my gun. Like, you know, but he would just lock up on it, and that's just, it was what it was. And so the thing is, when it came to being on the hood, like, fisticuffs, like with the homie Trey Ball, I can recall at the park. One of the things that I've been aware of, you can't bluff me. You got to show me. You can't say that you're gonna do something. You got to do it. And so, I was the type of person where I was down for violence, and I can remember the homie OG Trey Ball one time we at the park. And this is one of the times I first started coming around. And he took off. But it was a grace because he hit me in my chest, right? Now, Trey Ball was on swole, like dark complexion, handsome brother, life of the party, right? Everybody wanted to be like it's that same, what they call it, it's that same type, right? It's the same type. When you talk about Tookie, or you talk about Monster, you talk about Trey Ball, it's the same type. You know what I mean? It's like a template, and this is who we become. This is who we strive to become. So Trey Ball, he hit me in my chest, and then we started going body, right? And so I knew that he wasn't going hard. I can tell that, you know, what it is, you know, he got an affinity towards me. Because I could tell that homies had an affinity towards me because the work that I put in and how I was representing. You know, I wasn't, you couldn't bluff me. You know what I'm saying? You couldn't scare me. You have to, you know, so like, and so that didn't, and so the thing is, being that I couldn't be bluffed or scared, this allowed me to like I just was a fool or something.
Hey, did you ever establish relationships with some of the OG founders that were probably 10 years older than you? Like, let's say like Hunchy, Gregory Baycott, Skull, Hilly,
Yeah.
and forgive me if I'm missing some, but some of the guys from that first generation, did you ever get close with any of those guys?
So I'm gonna say Hunchy, you know, Hunchy, we definitely was out and about doing things, and oftentimes I don't put everything out, but Hunchy, Baycott, Smokey Joe, like all of them, yeah. You know, I mean, just being in the hood, being around one another. You know, one of the things we would do is we would set up in the hood and we would just like wait for somebody to come through. So we would be in the neighborhoods, on roofs, on porches, just hanging around, you know, and that's over there, 83rd and Western, right? And that's pretty much the area where the founders were. Like Sodikai. Sodikai is another one. As a matter of fact, Sodikai, I can recall, man, I'm gonna share this story with you. This story, and again, I don't like name dropping, especially when the person not here. But I'm gonna say rest in peace to Pretty Boy, because I'm gonna tell you, like, you know, he was a worthy component back in the day. And the thing is, what I find interesting about our beef to say is how like people were in terms of the willingness to take it there, to be violent, you know what I'm saying? But I'll tell you this, I'll share this with you. I can remember one day I'm walking down the street, I'm like 81st, 82nd and Western, and I think it was Pretty Boy and Jay Stone. Yeah, I think Pretty Boy and Jay Stone, and them dudes is like Pretty Boy was like, what, 4 or 5 years older than me. So as a teenager, if I'm 15, you know, he 20, he 19. So he's like a grown-ass man with mustache. So Pretty Boy and Jay Stone, they come at me with 2 screwdrivers, right? And so I couldn't stand under that. So I had to run, right? So I ran across Western, right? And, you know, beating traffic. But I'm gonna tell you, man, Sody, he scolded me for that shit. He scolded me. He was like, fuck that. You don't, but in my mind, I couldn't understand why he wanted me to stay there and get dug out by 2 older motherfuckers, right? I couldn't understand that, right? You know, but the thing is, it definitely was about, you know, being involved in retaliating, of course.
Did you ever get to talk to Pretty Boy before he passed and reminisce on some of the old days?
No, I could say I saw Pretty Boy once when we was when we was locked up. We was locked up, and we was on cool terms. You know, I want to say this, man. I think it's really important for me to say this. Is that my journey is my journey, right? And for me, I don't owe the explanation to nobody. But I feel that, like, I was involved in a lot of harm towards our community, right? I was involved in the beef. And so, being that I was involved in the beef, I could speak on it. And by me speaking on it today, I'm not perpetuating it in any shape, form, or fashion. Like, my objective today is to quell it. It's because I understand where we at, and I understand all the violence, you know, that happened as a result. And so I think it's important for me to name that.
And if Pretty Boy was still with us, you and Pretty Boy would most likely be able to sit down and have an incredible, cordial, respectful conversation.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt. You know, it's interesting, man, when I think about the span of years. When I speak about the span of years, the interactions that I've had with various rivals, right? And I'm gonna tell you, I was the type of person that took off out here and when I was locked up. But I'm gonna tell you like this, man. Something happened in my life that put me in this space to no longer want to like to be violent. And I'm gonna tell you, one of the things that I learned about myself is when I stopped being violent, violent was no longer in my life. I'm talking about in terms of me being, when I was locked up, it's interesting because I'm gonna say I was blessed during my term because I didn't have issues. And the thing was, when I went to every prison I went to initially, there was always like a cloud of that there might be violence to take place between the rival factions, because you would have Crips that was down with the Eight Trays, where I was from at the time, and then you had people who was down with the 60s. And so you had people that like were part of both of them sides. I guess they trying to get a spot. Ever one? Oh. Yeah. So you have people trying to get you have people wanting to know like what's happening, right? And so my whole thing throughout my entire time when I was in prison was I just want the people responsible for killing my mother and little brother. If nobody's tripping on me, I ain't tripping on nobody. Somebody get at me foul, then my response is gonna be like, they the person who killed my mother and little brother.
You mentioned a couple times what you had to deal with in prison and being on different yards. You was only really concerned about the people who did what they did to your mom and your brother. But before that even happens, you end up committing an act at this very section, right? I guess it starts inside of this Tom's. I think it was Tom's Liquor at the time. Now it's Tom's Market. But you bump into Mumbles from Rollin 60s inside this store. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
My first question is, why would someone from 60s be walking around in the heart of Eight Tray neighborhood on Florence and Normandie? Was there any explanation for that, or?
So let me say this. So it was Mumbles and Lil Coop, right? And you know, I'm a little reluctant to talk about it, but I think it's really important, you know, because you know, I don't even like referring to him as Mumbles, you know, because I realized the humanity in who he was as a person. And if I was focused on him at Mumbles, then there would be no accountability for me. So I want to honor him by calling him by name, Stanford. And I say his name to honor him. So I want to say that when him and one of his homeboys came into the liquor store, like, I thought that maybe it was an ally, somebody who was from Hoover or something. So I didn't really expect to be hit up like I was hit up. And so it's interesting because September the 7th, 1985, right here at this liquor store, on this very corner, right around the corner, is where the shooting took place.
What does it feel like being here at the site of where you took another man's life?
You know, it's really surreal, and it seems like I never imagined that I would be here again, because when I was in prison with that life top, it's like I was buried. So it feels surreal, almost as if I'm in a dream. But I would tell you that I feel anxious because I realized the harm that I realized that I took a person's life, and he can never come back from that, right? And yet I went and I served my time, and now here I am. And so one of the things that I do in terms of like moving forward in my life is to try to make things right. You know, so when I think about Stanford, I think about how can I give back to the community.
That was the first time you ever spoke about this homicide like publicly on? Was that on the Ear Hustle podcast?
Yes, yeah. When I was locked up, yeah.
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 You was on the Ear Hustle podcast while you was in San Quentin prison, and this was a topic of probably, to me, in my opinion, one of the most interesting episodes they ever produced. So what was it like? So since this is not the first time you're speaking on this, what was it like when they interviewed you on the Ear Hustle podcast to speak about Stanford and what you did on this corner back in 1985?
So let me say this. Rollin, Nigel, and Anthony, we were all colleagues in the media center. So it's different because we were, in 2012, helped launch the radio program, produced the first 2 stories of the radio program, the KALW. And KALW came in and they taught us, how to do interviews, how to utilize Pro Tools, right? How to do narratives and storytelling and things of that nature, how to do pitches. So I got feature stories that we did prior to podcasting. So I just want to say that it was really a different dynamic than our dynamic because we were colleagues, so to speak.
And I'm assuming you guys talked about stuff off camera or off tape. You and Erlin would probably talk about these things at length when you weren't being recorded.
So let me say this. Ear Hustle submitted 3 stories, and they were in a competition, right, with 53 countries and over 1,500 entries, all right? They submitted 3 stories. Those stories were misguided loyalty, they changed pets in prison, and the shoe program. Those were the 3 stories that they submitted. And eventually it all whittled down to Ear Hustle coming in first place, right? So that's big for them to take on, competitors worldwide and come down in first place. So I can say, in terms of me telling my story to Ear Hustle, at that point in time, I had done a lot of work in many of the groups at San Quentin. And I became more comfortable with my narrative because I had to process it. Initially it was difficult for me to even admit that this crime occurred. When I first got arrested, I was telling everybody that this happened in self-defense, that antagonistic words were exchanged. I came out of the liquor store. Stanford followed me out, and as a result of that, he pulled a weapon, and a struggle ensued for possession of the weapon. That was the lie that I was telling people. You know what I'm saying? But once I got to San Quentin in 2012, and I was able to see, people standing in their truth. See, again, remember, that goes back to that thing of me being able to be in an environment where I'm able to see what change looked like, or something that I want to emulate. So me seeing these guys super articulate, well-spoken, standing up in groups, talking about insight into what motivated them to commit the crimes they committed, it made me want to do the same. And so I got involved in that as well. So I think it's important to be able to shape that narrative right there.
Okay. So back to 1985, you walk in the store and Stanford's already in the store?
No, I'm in the store.
You're in the store first?
I'm in the store.
Okay. And
so,
what were you doing in the store? Talk about why you're in the first place. So
I was getting ready to go to Carson. I was getting ready to go visit a young lady. So I stopped by to get something to drink, right? I'm inside this liquor store. I'm at the counter, and I see 2 people coming in the liquor store. I can tell they bangers because I'm a part of the culture. So I see them. And again, I'm not about being the victim. But, so I just spoke. I don't even hit him up or nothing. I just say, what's up? And then that's when Stanford, he say, what that West Side Rollin 60 like? Now, when he said that, I was shocked because I didn't expect that. And then when I looked towards the door, this little homie had his hand in his coat pocket like he had a gun. So now, adrenaline is flowing, fear is pumping. I'm already looking like they pull, I'm jumping over this counter. But as soon as he said that, my response was, what? Fool, what that, Eight Tray Gangster like. Then I hit him with the F-60s, right? And so at that point, I noticed some more people coming in the store. These were some of the people that I knew who stayed in my neighborhood, right? Not bangers, but lived in the hood. So when I saw that, I saw the youngster take his hand out his coat. And so at that point, I went from feeling that fear, right, and the humiliation of feeling like, damn, I'm gonna have to jump over this counter, right? Because I didn't outed myself. But I outed myself before I saw this youngster over here with his hand in his jacket. So, you see what I'm saying? So, at that point, I do a beeline for the door. My car was parked right in the front of the store. And I went in, the driver's side. I got the gun that I had. And then, before I can fully get my hands on it, I saw him coming out of the door. But I already knew what I had to do. I already knew. I didn't really even think twice because of, where it had gotten to a point. Can you imagine, how could it get to a point to where I wouldn't even want to step on an ant to where I can run towards a person and shoot him 5 times?
So how old were you at the time, and how much time do you think passed from being in front of the counter and pulling the trigger?
I was 19 years old at the time. He was 24. I'll say it was 45 seconds, 30 seconds. It was right out, because I was at the counter and got my stuff, and he walked up and he was talking, and then I went out. Then he came right out. So I don't know. I just thought that the fact that he was here meant that, damn, I'm finna get blasted, and my gun is in the car. You see, because this is the heart of Eight Tray Gangster's hood. So the fact that he came in like that, I don't understand that.
You remember where your car was parked?
It was right in the front.
Can we walk over to that spot?
Yeah, sure.
Come this way.
What's up, dawg? Good to see you. Car was actually right here. It was right here. Car was right here. This wasn't a handicap spot. Car is actually right here. Right here. Yeah.
So what's it like standing right here? Now we're really at the crime scene, huh?
Mm-hmm. Because the shooting actually took place here to right here, this corner. He came to rest right here.
So when he walked out the store, I guess his car, or he was going in this direction?
There was a van right here. He came, it's my understanding, he pulled up in a blue van. It was either right here or right here. Yeah, it was right here. So he was going towards his van, apparently. I don't know.
And take me through. You go in the car, you pull it out, and
Yeah, so I get in the car, and as he's coming out, I'm going towards him, and I don't want to relive that for everybody, right? So I'm not gonna give an account of that like that. But I will tell you, the shooting took place right here, in this area.
so after the shooting, you jumped in your car and left?
Well, actually, I left the car here because I didn't want people to see me get back into the car, and because it was broad daylight. So initially, I told him that a struggle ensued upon this wall, right? And that we bump up against this wall, and I end up getting a gun. And I told him, I said that I dropped the gun here and ran across Florence and Normandie that way. But the fact is, again, it wasn't self-defense. You know, I shot him cold-bloodedly. And then I ran across Florence and Normandie. And what's interesting, I heard two little girls coming from around 71st. And they knew me, because like we had friends that stayed on the corner houses and the first 4 houses. And so I heard the kids saying, they were like saying, Joker did it. Joker did it. And so what happened was, I went all the way around. Like the AutoZone place wasn't there. It was like a little, I don't know, upholstery place. But I was able to go and access my friend's backyard. So I was looking, let me show you something. I don't know if you can see it, but see where that tree is across the street? Across the street, you see the purple flowers right there? See the purple flowers?
Yep.
So right there on the other side of that was my homeboy's garage. And so I came up and looked over the wall at this site, and I could see the gathering start to take place from back then.
So because people were already saying your name, how long did it take before the LAPD had you in custody?
4 days. No, 8 days. 8 days. Total of 8 days.
And when did you know they were coming for you?
After hearing that my mother and little brother were killed.
Okay, so how long did it take when that happened?
That happened 4 days after the shooting that took place. The shooting took place here September the 7th, 1985. And my mother and little brother were killed September the 11th, 1985.
So you weren't in custody when that happened?
No. And then I got arrested September the 15th, 1985.
Woo, man.
Yes. Yeah. I'm gonna tell you, man. It was a blessing. A blessing, I'm gonna say, for myself and for the community. Because at that point, I'd already been involved in so many different forms of violence, right? So many different forms of violence. And so the irony is, when I look back at my young mentality, where I realized my brain wasn't even formulated, like I had a Rambo mentality. Like I went and dressed in all black. I had intentions on going over into the Rollin 60s neighborhood and committing acts of violence, and then driving out to Pomona, and then coming back out here and driving out to Pomona. So I was with the ante at that point. And what I mean by that, when I lost my mother and my little brother, that meant everything was off. And so I'm saying it was a blessing that I didn't get an opportunity to commit those acts of violence that I had in mind.
Now, there are some people that will say back then in 1985 and even today in 2024 that a little brother and a mother should have been off limits. Regardless of what you and I are going through, a younger brother who's not a member, am I correct? Who's not a member, and a parent should be off limits.
Oh yeah.
What conversations were going on back then when your mother and little brother got killed?
So, for me, again, that was the most devastating thing to happen to me in my life. And so, that put me in a whole different space. Because then it was no longer about gang banging. It was personal now. So I did all the banging through juvenile hall, camp, youth authority, in the streets, at 19, but at that time, it wasn't about banging no more. Banging was trivialized, it was petty, fuck that shit. That's where I was at then, because of that happened. But I can tell you this, it wasn't fuck it. What it meant was my reality changed and my objective changed and my anger and my violence changed. So now I'm not about the gang politics anymore. So because anybody tell me nothing, this is who I am and this is what I'm gonna do. And so for me, I want a revenge. I definitely want a revenge. And I'm gonna tell you, I was out 4 days before I went back to prison, before I got arrested. So
the 60s learned very quickly what had happened to their homeboy.
Yeah.
And
they knew, because everybody knew. The kids knew.
Yeah.
The police knew. Everybody knew.
Now my question you didn't answer is, what was he doing here in the first place?
That's just it. Why would he be doing here? I can't answer that.
Did he have a family member that lived around the corner? Was there? Did
Well,
you ever learn that?
Well. The thing is, our neighborhoods were like this. You walk either direction, you run into one another. But we way down here on Normandie, right? But he definitely had spots over there, 66th, 55th. There were, people had spots because, that's just the way it was. It wasn't like, you can be in a neighborhood and be all the way out the way. You know what I'm saying? But he didn't grow up too far from here. From my understanding.
So how did you get arrested? How did they get you in custody? What was that like?
So I just so happened to be on 66 in Broadway, over that way. And they followed one of my friends to because they were looking for me. They were like taking people's parents into custody. They were like running up in people's spots looking for me, right? So they end up following someone to where I was at. And when I got ready to walk out, I walked out one morning, right? And I was really like at a state of like disbelief, questioning God, like why? And I just walked outside just to look up and question God. And I went back in the house. And next thing you know, they had the place surrounded. So they end up getting on the loudspeaker, telling me they know I'm in there, come on out. And at first, I ran to the back, grabbed the gun, was gonna try to leave out the back door, but I saw them, they had that surrounded. So then I just stood for a minute just holding the gun, and then I heard Crazy D on a microphone, on a loudspeaker, and he told me, come out. He said, they know you in there, homie. He said, come out. They know you in there.
I've never heard of that before. So they actually had Crazy D from Eight Tray.
He told me to come out, man.
To give up.
He told me to come out.
What did you think about that?
I think that D saved my life, man. D knew where I was at. He knew my state of mind. He knew. He could foresee me probably shooting it out with the police. So D had foresight in that moment. You know? He was thinking.
But what was he doing with the police?
Me and D were together. He just happened to be outside.
Oh, okay. So they grabbed him.
Yeah, D ended up going to jail. He went for what they call that? Harboring a fugitive. You know, there was relatives there. So we had, you know.
Okay, before we leave this location, I have to ask about some of the other charges that you got hit with when you was 19. Some horrible charges against two women, I believe. Let me say two teenage girls, right?
Yeah, and two women.
Well, what can you tell us about that? When did that happen, and did that have anything to do with this?
Let me tell you, during a period in my life, I was experiencing like a lot of anger, resentment, unprocessed traumas, right? I think it's important for me to say that. And I think it's also important for me to say hurt people, right? And what I'm alluding to is that in my community, one of the things that I experienced as a 6-year-old on my way to elementary school is I was kidnapped. And I was taken to a bathroom where I was sexually molested. I ended up running, getting away, but I didn't tell anybody about that. Not until I was an adult inside prison. And I've also experienced a molestation from an extended family member between the ages of 8 and 9. I think it's important to name that. And I also experienced it by a neighbor when I was 12 years old. I think it's important to mention that. And not having no safe space to share it, to unpack what happened to me in my life. You can imagine that it's going to come out. But also I think it's important for me to say is every crime that I committed with my homeboys first. No matter what crime it was. I can tell you the first time that I got that I involved in, unfortunately, a sexual assault was when my homeboy sister was kidnapped from the county jail. Right? And she was sexually assaulted by the rivals. And so what happened was, see, that's just how it was with banging. Okay, you want to play this shit? Okay. So, end up going over in their neighborhood, but perpetrating the same crime on someone as well. So let me say, that's initially how I got involved with that. But I want to say that I was at such a low place in my life where not having an opportunity to address those unresolved issues when something would happen in my teenage life that reminded me of my childhood trauma, I ended up going out perpetrating that same crime on unsuspected victims, survivors.
Now, did this happen during those 4 days that you were on the run?
No.
Or prior to that?
This happened prior to that. I was engaged in that type of behavior prior to my arrest. Like, I was off the chain. I was off the chain out here, right? All forms of violence. Like, I could say I was 19, I was 18, I turned 19. And I could say that I got arrested. No, I got brought in for questioning twice for 2 crimes that I actually had done. But I had alibis. And they let me back out. They did blood tests and everything. So even though I had in my mentality, in my mind, that I wasn't gonna do it again because I got caught and they were on to me, I had yet to address those issues to why I did them in the first place. Do you understand? So when I got arrested for the murder, what happened was you had the detectives who were investigating the other crimes bring it to the DA. Hey, this is our guy. That's if we're going to get him, we got to get him now. And so they filed additional charges. So
I wanted to ask, regarding the sexual assault charges, were these girls that you knew? Were they from the other side?
So they were women in my neighborhood. There were 2 teenagers and two women in their 30s. The sexual assault with the teenagers happened at the same time.
And did they come to court on you?
Yes, they did come to court on me.
And what was it like dealing with that while you're in custody?
Well, misidentification. I was in denial about that, saying that they falsifying crimes against me, and so it wasn't even an issue, and I think it wasn't even an issue because, for the most part, like people knew who I was, and they knew my history, and so. In fact, I don't even think people knew that I was in prison for rape. They didn't even know that until I made it be known. And I did that when I was in San Quentin, because I felt that it was important for me to be able to address my issues, in terms of accountability, getting the lie off my chest. And I'm glad that I did, because the only way that you can resolve unresolved issues are by going back and looking at how did you get to a place where you can do this in the first place. You see, so I'm gonna say it again, hurt people hurt people. The same things that occurred to me in my life, whether it was sexual harm, whether it was gang violence or harm, were things that initially occurred to me, right? So I was taught these things. These was environmental things that, not having an opportunity to talk about. So just imagine when I get with a group of individuals who are experiencing similar harms and similar traumas, and then we go out and commit acts of violence on the community, how that validates us in so many ways.
So how was you able to keep that a secret from your fellow prisoners?
It wasn't even keeping it a secret. I don't talk about my business. I don't I didn't talk about nothing.
But don't sometimes they question what your charges are when you get there?
I was never questioned about anything. People, I'm gonna say it again. My reputation preceded me. Okay? My reputation preceded me. That's the best way I can put it.
But you've seen other prisoners come to a yard and get questioned on. Hey,
I've
what are you here for,
I've seen those type of things happen. I've seen those type of things occur many times. You know, but again, see, when you're involved in gang activity, there is like a hierarchy.
Hey.
Yeah.
That's Donald Archie right there.
Okay. Yeah.
It's been a long time
Yeah.
since you've seen him.
Yeah. Yeah. Look.
Sweetback.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a hierarchy. It was a hierarchy.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
And so the thing was this. People knew who I was from. They knew how I represented. They knew that I was violent. They knew that I would, you know, defend myself. I don't know what it was, the grace of God.
All right, well, before we leave this spot and go to the next location, what are some final words that you want to tell the people now that we're about to depart from the location where you took a man's life? Final thoughts.
I'll say, man, right now I'm just taking this scenery in.
And by the way, you're getting a lot of love from people behind the camera.
Yeah.
That the people that are watching this can't see. But go ahead.
Yeah. Let me say that my hope is that some.
That young man, I think he knows.
Of course.
We just talked about you earlier.
Exactly. And you.
We just saw y'all.
It's all good.
Okay.
I'm gonna see you, homie.
Yes. Thank you.
That's the OG Sweetback, a.k.a. Donald Archie.
Yes.
One of the original West Side Crips.
Yeah.
That came up. Actually, he's the one that brought Tookie to the neighborhood. He brought Tookie to the set.
Let's check it out. Exactly. See, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You see, I don't have to name drop.
Yeah.
I don't have to say who I am. They'll tell you who I am. That's what I find really interesting about this. And see, throughout my time, I remained humble. So it wasn't like I was going around braggadocious, walking around like I'm the hardest dude in the prison. No, I minded my own business, and I exercised, and I did things. You know, I did things to demonstrate that, you know, I was with the business. So I never had any issues, man, while I was locked up. Again, when I stopped being violent towards others, violence was no longer in my life. But one other thing I want to say when it comes to my hope is that at some point that you can have members from both factions, from the Eight Trays in the 60s. Again, I know these were things that people have been talking about for some time now. But get together, I don't know, to have some type of dialogue. One of the things that I do now is I do restorative justice practices. I hold circles, right? Healing circles. And so I'm convinced of the power of restorative justice and those principles, right? And so my hope is that at some point you can have rival members come together and discuss what took place. Be able to set up these opportunities to where we can have this open and honest and vulnerable dialogue about some of the things that happened in our lives, some of the things that we did so that we can create some healing, right? And those restorative justice principles, empathy, accountability, and amends, making things right, and healing. Like that's really important. So I envision one day of having a mediator to be able to, like, you know, come up with some questions and come up with dialogue. Okay, this is how we're going to show up. This is how you have to show up. And so, you know, you might hear some things that you may not like. How will you act if you hear this? So it gotta be like a preparation has to take place. You know what I mean? A mediation has to take place so that these dialogues can happen, so that they can see. Because ultimately when we was in prison, right, we were selling up with one another. right? We was living on the tier with one another. We walk in the yard to one another. We was exercising together, you know? So if we can live like that while we locked up, surely we can live like that while we free.
Okay, last question I wanted to address is how much time did you end up doing before we go to the next location, and briefly talk about that.
So I got locked up September 15, 1985, and I was released from prison April 27, 2022. So I'm gonna say, you know, I'm gonna round that up to 37. I'm gonna round that up to 37. So I did 37 years inside the belly of the beast. And now here I am. I got spit back out up on dry land. I can tell you, you know, it's a beautiful experience to be free, to be out here. I do experience anxiety because I don't know what the future holds. But one thing I know is that I believe in what it takes to be in the heart space. To come from I'm no longer in the head space. I'm now in the heart space. See, when I was in the head space, I was concerned about what people thought or trying to prove like, oh, look at what I can do. See, I was in the head space. Well, now that I'm in the heart space, it's about being authentic. You know, going back to who I really am as a person, going back to my humanity. See, that's really important. You know, there's a saying around this particular tribe called the Bimba tribe, and how it was said that if a person caused harm inside the community, they would put that person in the center of a circle. And every person would go around and they would remind that person who they were, right? The good things that they were, who they were in terms of their personhood, right? Reminded them that they wasn't the horrible person who did those horrible things, right? So for me, you know, I'm coming full circle. I'm at a place of authenticity, and I'm able to be real now. I'm able to say like, yeah, I did some horrible things in life, but I also say, you know what? Not only did I serve my time inside prison, but now I'm outside. And I'm making a difference in lives. I'm going back into San Quentin and Soledad, right? I teach a curriculum called GRIP Training Institute, God and Rage in the Power, a 52-week curriculum, right? Where now I'm sitting in circle helping people come to terms with the crimes and the horrible things that they done and how to utilize the tools to keep them from going back inside the prison, right? From committing those horrible crimes again. And I also hold a former incarcerated circle for RJOY, Restorative Justice for Oakland Youth, on Monday nights in downtown Oakland, right? Systematic impacted people, like they come and we have these different dialogues about healthy relationships, about addiction, about grieving, about emotional intelligence and things of that nature, right? So I'm doing some great things still, and I'm still involved with Uncuffed. You know, doing contractual work with them. You can check me out on uncuff.org. Tommy Shakur Ross.
Okay, where's the next location you want to take us to real quick?
I want to take you to the house that I was born in.
Okay.
I'm going to go around on 71st Street.
All right, we'll head over there right now. Okay, so Shakur, you brought me down here on 71st Street, man. Where are we standing at right now?
Okay. Say right across the street, right here at 1717 West 71st Street. This is the place that I was born. I was here up until my little brother was born. He was born in 1970. And we moved from here to 51st and Normandie.
Did you ever find out why your parents decided to move from here? Because it seems like first of all, you didn't move far away.
Right.
So what's the difference from here and down the street?
So I never had a chance to really unpack this question, but I recall hearing that my father had left the rent money on top of the roof. So I don't know, I don't understand the whole dynamics behind that, but that was the narrative that I was fed, and that was the narrative that I believe to this day.
And let's talk a little bit about your family. Who'd you live here with, and what was your family life like back then?
Wow. So I stayed here with my older brother, Lehman. His name, he changed his name to Raheem. He's 7 years older than me. I was with him, my older sister, Denise, 6. She's passed on. She passed on in 2022. I was here with my older sister, Danetta, who was 4 years older than me, and she passed on earlier this year. And my mom and my dad.
So you have one brother still living?
One brother still living. Yeah. And I believe my little brother was born here as well. So when my little brother was born, and then when we moved to 51st Street.
So Raheem's your older brother.
Raheem, my older brother.
And what's your little brother?
David, my little brother.
He's still around?
No, he was killed.
What happened to David?
He was killed. Him and my mother.
Oh, that's the one that was. Okay, yeah. David was the one.
Yeah, David. David was 4 years younger than me.
Okay.
So I got pictures of me when I was like a baby, with my siblings and my mom.
So when that happened to your little brother, was he 14?
He was 15 years old.
15? Okay.
Yeah. So
what's it like standing right here?
I mean, it just gives me a feeling of being home. Like I'm home. I mean, I paroled to Oakland, California. And so it seems so peaceful on this street. You would never think that like shootings happen on these streets. But yeah, shootings happens on these streets. And people know where you live and they shoot your house. Like, it's interesting, just the dynamic between the 8 Trays and 60s when you think about the closeness of Western and I know of many different occasions where shootings have occurred and where I also participated in certain shootings, you know, inside dwellings. So again, I was involved in the beef. And I'm no stranger to it, you know? But it does feel good to be on the other side of it, right? To have an understanding, right? Of, you know, now I know how to process my anger. So now I'm back home. Now I'm back to my place of authenticity. You see?
This is also the street that you ran from after you did the shooting on Florence and Normandie, right?
But yeah, that was much further down.
Yeah, a couple blocks.
But this street, 71st Street is a street that I've been familiar with all my life because I was basically up and down these streets here. You know, when I was involved in my activeness as a gang member.
Did your older brother Raheem ever get involved in the streets?
Nah, he was. Well, I'll say that he was more or less like he did his share hustling. You know, and you know he ended up going to camp as a juvenile, but he ended up getting his life straight, and he's doing great things now.
What were your parents like, mom and dad?
So my dad, a Baptist minister. So I was raised in the church. My dad was from the church. But the thing is, he's a Baptist minister, but in terms of connecting with the son and being gone all the time, and also whipping my ass, like my dad was, you know, his philosophy was spare the rod, spoil the child. And so in that instance, like when I would be staying out at night or when I did something, you know, he would definitely whip my ass. And when I say whip my ass, it's not just an average whipping. And so I would say that I picked up a lot of anger and resentment as a result of that. And my mom, I would say my mom was more or less, she was a soft-spoken woman. My mom, she would be in her own space and in her own world. And I knew that she loved me, but there wasn't those everyday check-ins, like how was school. And so I was pretty much, I pretty much was allowed to go off the porch at an early age. So, I mean, I didn't have a porch to sit on. Like I was off the porch, literally. And I would end up like hanging with my friends, going out and hanging with my friends. So it's like my friends were more family than my own family, so to speak, right? Because the age differences, the ranges. So I had a brother who's 4 years younger than me, and a sister who's 4 years older than me, and then siblings who's older. So I pretty much just went about doing things my own way.
Now, both your sisters were older than you?
Yes.
Did they kind of try to look after you and kind of guide you a little bit since they had a couple of years on you?
That's just it. As teenagers, when you're going through a teenage phase, sisters don't want to be bothered with their little brother. I can recall one time that, we were with some family members who lives in the Hollywood Hills, Laurel Canyon. And I can remember my sister and a couple of my cousins, they wanted to go to, they used to go to those TV shows, those live TV shows. You know what I mean? Like Good Times and the game shows and stuff like that. And I can recall how my auntie had told them to take them with me. For them, take me with them. And I can recall how mad my sister was at that point. And I didn't really understand it, you know what I mean? Why my sister would be so mad when I just want to hang around my sister. You know what I'm saying? So I would say that, I grew up eating food at the table, like with my family members, and having to attend church service all the time, right?
What church did you guys go to?
I went to Morning Star Missionary Baptist Church. I went to another church over on 83rd and Broadway, Solid Rock. Those were two of the churches.
And your dad was a minister at all these churches?
Well, my dad was an evangelist, so he would go to different places. And he would revolve around different places. And he would pastor also at Morning Star and Solid Rock. He would also do that as well. And one of the things, it's interesting because my parents, they wanted me to follow in my dad's footsteps, but I wasn't interested in being a minister. It was the things in the streets that was real to me, right? I wanted to play football, take karate, but those things conflicted with me piano lessons on the weekend, choir practice, and church on Sundays. So even though I was given an opportunity to participate in taking karate, I wasn't getting the support in terms of being able to go to tournaments and showcase my skills. And so I had a lot of resentment towards my family because I wasn't with the religious lifestyle. And I was shameful that my family was. So I would see my friends playing outside with the football, driving down the street, going to church, and I'd duck down in the seat because they would be clowning. They'd be like, "That's Ross' little boy," right? But it just brings a lot of happiness just to know that, that was a real experience.
How did your siblings feel about the church lifestyle?
Well, my sister played the piano, so I was seeing that my sister, 4 years older than me, Danetta, on my dad's sermons, she would play the piano, and then I would do a solo. And so one of the songs that we sung that I would sing is "Just As I Am." just thinking about it,
How does that song go?
Well, I'm not a singer now, so let me just tell you that.
You remember it, though.
But I can tell you, just as I am, without one plea, but that thy blood was shed for me, and that thou biddest me come to thee. O Lamb of God, I come, I come. See?
Hey, how did your mom and
You're
dad
talking
get
about
along?
authenticity. Well, my mom and dad, so I never seen my dad drink. I never seen my mom drink. It wasn't worldly music being played in the household.
So you guys couldn't listen to like Marvin Gaye and things like
Well,
that?
yeah, we could, but it wasn't, my parents didn't listen to that.
Yeah.
Those were things that my friends' parents listened to. But I would say that in terms of their relationship, my dad, he definitely was stubborn, and I could see he definitely had anger, things going on. So it's interesting to think about my dad, because my dad was born in 1914, and he's from Mississippi. So you can imagine what it was like for a black child growing up in Mississippi. And my dad was a World War II veteran, and he was captured and tortured during the war. I can say that, so my dad lost 3 wives and 3 sons. The first wife and child he lost was when the wife was giving childbirth. The second wife and son he lost was in a car accident. And the third wife and son he lost was my mother and little brother. So my heart, I've had to, like, in terms of me doing the work on the inside, I went back and I look at my parental traits. Like, who were they? How did the things they do and say impact me? You know? And so at first I had difficulty doing this because it's not about blaming my parents, right? It's about me having compassion for them and knowing that they did the best they could under the circumstances. And so, but yeah, I definitely experienced, I want to say, what I feel emotional neglect. And I definitely have experienced physical abuse in the household. Like physical abuse, what that look like? Getting my ass whooped in the bathtub with with an extension cord. Or I'm in the bathtub, my dad coming in and whip my ass. I'm just saying. Or me laying in bed sleep and my dad waking me up with a razor strapped to the face. Now imagine the impact that would have on a child, you see? And so for me, I believe that I learned anger and violence like by getting my ass whooped.
So you had an older father then?
Yes.
He was about in his early 50s when you were born.
Yes.
Was there a big age difference between your dad and your mom?
My mom was born in 31. She was about what?
20 years.
17.
17.
17 years younger. Yeah. And my dad lived to be 83 years old. Passed in 1997 when I was in Calipatra.
Okay, so after you committed the homicide over there and you were out for 4 days, did you ever get to talk to your dad about anything before you were taken into custody?
Okay. So I was over one of my homies' house, and my family, my brother and my dad came looking for me, and so one of my homies brung them to where I was at, and I didn't want to. When my mother and little brother was shot, I didn't want to see anyone. And so I was mad at him for bringing them over there because I didn't want to see the grief and pain on their faces. And so when he came, I came out and he was like telling me what happened. I said, I know. He was like, what you mean you know? And I was telling him I know. I said they think that I shot one of their homeboys, you know. And he was like, well, they want to talk to you at the police station. I'm like, I ain't going to no police station. So this is the first time that I outright defied my dad. I'm just saying to his face. You know what I mean? You know, so, but I'm like, I'm not going to no police station. And so then So then he asked my brother to grab me, and so I just took off and started running, and my brother ran after me, and then my brother he asked me what happened, and then I told him what happened.
So you ended up telling your brother the truth?
I told him the same thing. I said they think.
Okay.
I was telling everybody that lied, that I didn't do it. I said they think that I did that. And so I just ran, and he let me run away.
How did you get the word that the retaliation against your mother and brother had occurred?
You know, it's a funny thing, man. I'm gonna say it like this. Before my mother and little brother was killed, I was told by a friend of mine who lived in the 40s, right, that someone said, I'm not gonna say who, that if they can't get me, to get my mom. I heard that before it happened. The day that I heard it was the day that it happened. And the thing is, I didn't believe it because that wasn't what it was about, because we wasn't putting in work on family members. So I didn't think that was going to happen. But the fact that I did hear it and it happened, that means a lot to me. And so, but I had to process that too. And the thing is, you know, I had to process it because of the person who had said it. So, yeah.
Do you think there were many people from 60s that were against what happened to your family, to your mother and brother? Because, you know, there are many members from the set.
Oh, yeah.
And there was only a handful of assailants. There had to be some disagreement. Did you ever find out, like, what was that like?
Well, so that's just it, right? See, I ended the life of a reputable from the neighborhood, right? And for some, I'm just speaking from my own personal experience, right? Some of the homies are like darlings, who can do no wrong, who it's like, wow, man, we love that dude. The way they show up is like they the life of the party. You always hanging around them. They're always doing something that's for the neighborhood, that's for you. So I'll say that, man, yeah. What was the question again?
Do you feel that what happened to your mom and your 15-year-old little brother created a divide between some 60s that was not cool?
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And of course the 60s that signed off on that.
So you had some that was with that. That's just the nature of the beast. You know, for some, that's just who they are, and that's just what they about. We don't give a fuck, right? That's our narrative, and that's what we're about. But you had some like, yeah, man, who, matter of fact, you know, Big Hugh. He was somebody who like, when we were in the county jail in in between 85 and 88 before I caught the chain at HOJJ, I saw Big Hugh in a holding cell. And the thing was, he expressed to me, man, he said, man, I'm sorry what happened to your family. I wasn't with that. And he said, I ain't got nothing against you.
Wow.
But your homies, right? And so that was his narrative, what he, you know, so we kind of like just locked eyes and just shook heads. And it was what it was. But that was something that he said to me, you know what I mean? You know, he mentioned it, and so I mean, I just took him for his word.
Now, even though it was up between the Eight Trays in the 60s, you was able to have a cordial conversation with Big U like that during the height of the conflict?
Yeah. Indeed.
All right, so back to that question. Even though you were in the height of the war between the 60s and the Eight Trays, you was able to have a cordial, peaceful, respectful conversation with Big U. What was that like?
Well, you know, when you're in holding tanks, you know, you got cuffs on or whatever, you know what I mean? You can talk, you know, in some instances. And I'm gonna tell you, man, for me, man, I was afraid of being violent. And the reason I was afraid of being violent, because I thought that I would lose myself in violence and never come back from it again. Because I had so much anger and rage inside of me that I felt that I would not be able to control myself. After the murders occurred, and after I got inside custody, where all the weed wore off, all the drinking wore off, the PCP wore off, right? I was able to be at a place to where I had empathy for others, because I realized all the harm that I did and the harm that I caused others. You see? And so I'm like, it just allowed me to see where everything was a joke before that. You see? But I had so much anger and rage in my heart that I feared that I would be violent and lose myself. And I was the type of person, even when I smoked PCP, to where I felt like I was cognizant of where I was and what was going on. I was not a person to like lose myself. I wouldn't like to lose myself mentally in drugs or anything else for that matter. And so part of where I was feeling for myself is that I would lose myself in violence and wouldn't be able to come back from that. Like have a mental breakdown.
How old were you when you first smoked PCP?
I would say maybe about 15 years old, maybe younger.
I've read in Tookie's book, he talked about smoking PCP, and then also, of course, Cody talked about it.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, did you ever smoke PCP with Cody?
Oh yeah. Me and Cody, we used to ride around in this 8, like especially like when in '84 when I got out, he was out. Yeah, we used to. He had a gray '68 Chevy, and yeah, we would definitely hang and indulge, and yeah, a few of the homies, from time to time. But it wasn't necessarily my drug of choice. But at the same time, I'm hanging with the homies and they indulging, so I would indulge. But I will tell you this: one thing I didn't indulge in was crack cocaine, and what saved me from that was when I came home from Youth Authority in '84. See, at that point, crack had taken over the city. And so I saw girls who I used to want to get with out smoking crack. I mean, looking all disheveled. Some of the homies, as a matter of fact, one of the ones who we just left today, who was on the bike, like he used to like have the perm and on swole, and I saw that he had went down to a point. And so I'm like, if this happened to him, then I'm definitely not gonna smoke.
When you was in YA, did you ever cross paths with Lil Fee? Because I think he was in there in '84.
Lil Fee was in so let me say this. They had the Crip module, but so Crazy D and I went into the Crip module. And as soon as I went in there, they called me, what's the name of that damn SSI or I forget the name of the goons of the sheriffs.
Oh, you're talking about OSS?
Yeah, OSS.
Operation Safe Streets.
Yeah, Operation Safe Street. Yeah, OSS called me inside their little office, and because people had told, like, hey, this guy, whoa, this is going on. You let him on this tier, it's gonna be issues. whoa, 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 whoa. You know, because you're going to have different Crips and whatnot clicking up, and it's going to be on and popping. So what they end up doing was they sent me to HOJJ, Hall of Justice Jail. Now, that was the best thing they could have did for me, right? Because the Hall of Justice Jail, you know, there were just 2-man cells. They had different floors. The food was better. You had more freedom there. So that was one of the best things that we can do. And so that's where I saw Big Hugh in HOJJ.
Did you know Big U before you saw him in the town?
I didn't know him, but I heard his name a few times.
Now, were you about to allude to Little Fee?
So Lil Fee, we never crossed paths. I mean, he was. We probably saw each other in passing and doing court hearings and whatnot, but it's like if there was no energy, then there was no energy. You know what I'm saying? What I mean by that is if I see you in passing and you in chains and I'm in chains, I'm not going to be talking shit to you. You know what I'm saying? And so it wasn't even about that. You know what I mean?
Did you have any friends that were from the Rollin 60 that you may have known from elementary school before you started, before you got put on the Eight Tray? Did you ever cross paths with 60s as childhood friends?
I can't say off the bat, but I know a few people who. So one of the things is this: you have people who used to claim their neighborhood. It seemed like anybody could just represent their neighborhood. So I knew a few people who used to claim their neighborhood, but I didn't think that they were necessarily from their neighborhood, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I would say yeah.
When you got arrested after that, after your dad and your brother came to see you, you got arrested a few days later. How did your family support you during the court process and all the hearings and then your trial? What was that like?
So let me say, my sisters, they stopped communicating with me. They were pretty much like, we don't have a brother no more. But I was able to resolve those issues years later.
Your two sisters who have passed, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But my dad, he came to visit me, and he was asked by some of his friends, why do you support him? He's like, that's my son. So my dad, he supported me, and my brother also came to visit me, when I was locked up. So, but in terms of court, I would tell him not to come. I even had, people wanted to buy me an attorney. I don't want no attorney. So I was just in a different phase of my life. During my initial arrest and period of imprisonment, I was like in the zone and in the funk, and I was like training. I was training to be violent, but at the same time, I was afraid of being violent because I knew that I would lose myself in violence. And I only had targets for who I wanted to be violent towards, right? And so the targets for me during that time in my mind were the people who were responsible for the deaths of my mother and little brother, or any rival gang member that got at me foul. If they got at me foul, then it's going to be, he looked familiar. If any rival gang member got at me foul, then in my mind, I would enact vengeance on them as if they were the person who caused the harm in my family.
I would imagine that it would be difficult for some 60s to be mad at you, considering you lost your mom and your little brother in the war, and understand what you did in terms of victimizing Mumbles. That was part of the conflict. So that kind of, some people say that's what we signed up for, right?
Yes.
But we didn't sign up for our mothers and our little brothers to get killed.
Indeed.
So I would imagine some 60s may have felt empathy towards you.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, because the thing is, you know, that isn't what we were about. You know what I mean? I mean, not in my wildest dreams. I mean, just straight up, man. Back then, I was banged out, and I was ready for anything. Like, so I was at that place to where, like, come for me. Like, I'm doing this. You know, I'm gonna represent myself. I'm gonna shoot back, right? That's where I was. You know what I'm saying? And so I wasn't about being victimized. And so, yeah, for that to happen, man, yeah, I did look at them as how people look at people who commit crimes on women and children, right? As cowards. Like, that's how I viewed it. I'm just like, you know. So it is what it is. And so I'm sure you have, you know, some OG 60s who feel that same way. You know what I mean? Who didn't support that. I mean, that goes without saying, right? Because that is what we weren't about that, you know.
Okay, so during your trial, no family. Your dad wasn't even coming at that point?
I asked him not to come. I didn't even tell him my dates. I wasn't concerned about anyone coming. You had people. There would be people that would come, and they would like be in, you know, and they came. Some of my homies came, but I wasn't with people coming because they would make. They alluded to, oh, that's such and such sitting in the crowd, and it would impact my my court hearing.
What about Stanford's family? Were there people there for him?
No.
No?
No. They just let it go. But I'm gonna say it like this. Remember I said that I heard from someone that if they can't get me to get my mom, only thing I'm gonna say is read between the lines.
Okay. So I'll say it for those who are watching and listening. I guess there were rumors that we can't even go to the trial to support Stanford because of what happened to Tommy Ross's family.
No,
you know.
No, not that part. What I'm saying to you is, when I heard about if they can't get me to get my mom and little brother, I know who they said that, but I'm not going to say that name because I don't want to create no controversy.
Was there a lot of police presence at your trial? At least a couple of extra bailiffs than normal?
It wasn't even like that.
No?
No, it wasn't even like that. It wasn't like that. It was just it was just, so the trial it didn't even occur until what, 88. You know what I mean? I was in the county jail for like 3 years.
And did they ever try to offer you a deal?
Yeah, but they weren't. You know, I was in my lie in terms of me saying it was self-defense. So I was willing to take, you know, a manslaughter term, but they wanted to give me 17 years of life, and 17 years of life was what they eventually convicted me of. So I wouldn't take a deal for 17 years of life. But they wouldn't lower their charge.
Okay. So you kind of knew that it's just inevitable I'm going to be found guilty of all this stuff.
Yeah, because you know, the thing is, you had witnesses who had also saw what had occurred, and then I was fighting from the self-defense aspect, right? Saying that he pulled a weapon and struggled and sued for possession of the weapon. And so that's what my legal defense was, you know. What my legal defense was a lie, right?
What kind of relationship did you have with your public defender, and did you have the same one during those 3 years?
So, I didn't really understand as a teenager growing up and as a young man, I didn't really understand the legal system, and I wasn't necessarily bought into connecting with the lawyers because there was always this mistrust, you know. So I would say that, you know, I just shared with him what my defense was, and you know, in some instance, it felt like he was fighting for me. Then other instances just didn't really feel right, you know. I felt, but the fact of the matter is that I did do the shooting, And so, you know, and the outcome of what happened is what I was given, you know.
Okay, let's go to our final destination.
Indeed.
Tell us where we're going to head to right now.
So now we're going to go to 51st and Normandie, the house that I moved to after here, and also the house where my mother and little brother were killed on the night of September the 11th, 1985.
September 11th, huh? That's a date that has a lot of meaning, huh?
You know, it's interesting. I can give you so many.
Because every September 11th, the rest of the country's thinking about something else.
Yeah, they're thinking about 9/11.
Yeah.
So check this out. March 3rd is also a date. Do you know what date is important in March 3rd? Rodney King getting pulled over and getting pulled out of his car and getting beat. March 3rd is my birthday. Now check this out. Then you take it to what 9/11, my mother and little brother. Then you take it to Florence and Normandie, right? That was a place where I committed the murder that I committed, right? Years ago, you know. So it's interesting how dates play out.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
fences.
Brother Shakur, tell us where we are at right now, man.
Okay. So right now we are on right off of 51st and Normandie, and we're standing across the street from the house that I basically grew up in throughout my adolescence years. Once we moved over here from 71st Street, 1351 West 51st Street, this was the house that I basically was raised in with my family until my arrest in September of 1985.
So what was, I guess the same people that lived in the other house that we were just on 71st lived here. Your little brother was actually born at that house too, huh?
Indeed,
So,
indeed.
So all five of you guys and your parents just moved here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we definitely moved here. And yeah, it's interesting, man, because just being on the street, I'm just reminiscing all my friends who lived on this block. I'm looking at the people who were close in my life. We're standing in front of the Robinson's house. Michael Robinson, Anthony Robinson, Wanda Robinson, Ricky Robinson, all older guys, but had some type of influence in my life. My friend Leo used to stay right across the street. Eric Stevenson stayed next door to him. Then we had Poncho Blinky. We had, so yeah, it's just a lot coming up for me now. Yeah.
And and explain of like who these people were and what role they played in your life back then.
So yeah, just basically like childhood friends, you know, childhood friends and older teenagers and older adolescents who I looked up to and had some type of influence in my life. You know, like when I think of Michael Robinson, Michael, he used to take me out to Long Beach to stay at his apartment, right, when he got married. And Eric, you know, we used to go to places like the beach, right? And I'm saying these are things prior to me being involved in gang activity. This is pre-teenage years.
Now, a lot of people watching this will say, it sounds like Shakur had a really positive childhood. He had a lot of friends on the block. What would have made you, and then you're coming up under a religious parent, what would have made you venture off into the street to become a member of a gang?
Well, you pan your camera over that way right there?
Yeah.
This alley?
Let's walk over there.
Yeah.
Let's cross the
Yeah.
street and go to the alley.
This alley right here? So, this alleyway right here, there it wasn't no fence there. So this was the route that I used to take as a little kid to go to school. So, say right there on 49th, this is where I was kidnapped as a 6-year-old who was sexually assaulted. So, even though I was raised in this neighborhood, it's still a violent neighborhood, right? There still were factors that were going on, environmental factors that were going on in my life that I hadn't come to terms with, right? So, for trauma to happen in a person's life and not get an opportunity to process that trauma, it's going to come out in some ways. Some people, they do self-violence. They might cut on themselves, right? Or they may drink themselves to death, right? And other people act outwardly on the others. And so for me, I became angry, resentful, and vengeful. So that's who I became. And so anytime I've experienced that anger, I would perpetrate anger. Like, especially once I got to that age where I was 13 and I got involved in the gang activity and I had the whole backing of this gang, I was just like, I wasn't going to be anybody's victim. And so what that meant is that I was going to victimize others, right? But I think it's important to say, by not processing the things that happened to me, they eventually came out. So that's something that's really important. Like, you say, yeah, it looks nice, but there's underlying tones of violence that take place in these environments that go unaddressed.
Okay, so before we talk about what happened to your family here at the house, let's talk about what are some of the memories you have here, growing up in this house with your 2 older sisters, your 1 older brother, and your 1 younger brother, and your mom and dad. What are some memories you have here?
Man, I remember the first day we moved here, how my friend Leo was walking down the street. He stayed the 3rd house off from this alleyway right here. Him and some of his family members was walking by, and they introduced themselves to me. And they told me that I can come, visit anytime. And so I ended up making a connection with Leo, and it's like, that was my house. I wasn't here, I was there. Let me be clear on that. So the fact that I wasn't here, remember I told you that I wasn't on the porch. I didn't have no porch. You know how some people say I didn't come off the porch until a certain age? I didn't have a porch. I was off the porch. So I was at my friend Leo's house the majority of the time. That was my family. I went to his house as if I lived there. I ate dinner there, So it was just a different dynamic. There were things going on in my family dynamic that nobody knew. Like when I talk about emotional neglect. Can you imagine what it's like? And I say this with love, but can you imagine what it's like for a kid to go into a room where his mother is reading a paper or a book or something, or studying, and to get that an angry attitude, boy, you're getting on my nerves, right? That caused me to cringe on the inside, not really understanding why the woman I love, my mother, is telling me I'm getting on her nerves. So that means now I have to walk around eggshells, right? And I'm not receiving the love and affection that I'm looking for. You understand? So those aren't excuses. For me, those are facts. This was my experience was. But of course there were also some good times, right? I mean, there were times when when I graduated my 6th grade. When I graduated, that was the only graduation that I ever been a part of. My 6th grade graduation.
Which school was that?
Normandie Avenue Elementary. It is straight all the way down that alley until you get to Normandie Avenue. So, yeah, I can recall just like going into the store where we had a credit where I would go to the store and make purchases and say, put it on the books. So they didn't even know if my mother or parents had endorsed it. I would just go to the store and buy chocolate chip cookies and milk and tell them put it on the books. So, yeah, man, it's interesting because this house didn't have none of the bars. It didn't have this black fence. Yeah, it was white and green. The house was white and with green trim. So, and the store was also white. And it's now look what mango or pink-ish. I want to say that, man, I used to access my room. I used to come out on the side. My room was all the way to the back where you see the green like big bush. My room was right there in front of that. And I would be able to come in and out my room and come out to the front yard or the sidewalk. Yeah, this is so surreal. My friend Benny used to stay here next door. He ended up committing suicide because his wife cheated on him. He ended up killing himself. And I remember Benny used to take me for rides on his motorcycle. Like I would be on the back holding on for dear life, and we would be on the highways. And so, yeah.
All right, so after you shot Stanford, I think you said it was just a couple days later.
Yeah.
They came over here to this house. My first question is, how did they even know that you lived right here, you know, kind of outside the set, but very close to the set, but slightly outside the set? Somebody had to have some first-hand information.
Oh, yeah. So it goes without saying, right? I used to be out. I used to pull my blue 64 right in front of my house and wash it. So people going by, they would see me. Matter of fact, one of the Rollin 60s, so I called in my neighborhood, and I was packing, and I was like, "You lucky I ain't about that life no more," right? I was about it, but if we not beefing, I'm not about it. You know what I mean? Because it got to one point where it's about retaliation. Like I ain't banging no more. I mean, I'm not really active. Like I'm involved, but you know that's the only way I'm involved. But in any event, it got to a point to where people knew where I stayed. Like, they just knew. Like people from my neighborhood knew where I stayed. People knew that I lived in the 50s. You know, it was no secret. You know, it was nothing to hide. It's not nothing that I'm ashamed of. You know, this is the hood, right? All of this. I'm familiar with every aspect of Normandie from here all the way down to Rosecrans. From here all the way down to Hollywood. You know, these were some streets that I walked and I terrorized these communities, right? So, yeah.
So you get the word that retaliation occurred at this house. Do you know exactly how it played out? Were your parents outside? Were they inside? Was there a knock at the door? Like, what's the story of how it actually happened?
So, I got a phone call from somebody who stayed right there on 53rd and Normandie, who told me what had occurred. They called me, and so I called, and my phone, nobody answered the phone. So I knew something was not right because usually someone would answer the phone. It was like 10 o'clock or so at night. So at that point, I got in the car and had someone drive me down here. And we parked on, when we got to 51st, we saw tape in front of the house. And so at that point, I realized that something tragic had happened. So I asked him to park right there on the corner on Raymond and 51st, and for him to go see what had happened. And so when he came back, he told me that he had it backwards. He said that my mother was killed and my little brother might not make it. But the fact of the matter is, I heard that someone knocked on the door, and my older brother was here as well. But he was sitting in the living room with my little brother, who was ironing his clothes to go to school the next day. And so my older brother went into the back room, to my old bedroom, which was my little brother's bedroom at that point. And my mother came out the living room. Wait, no. My brother went, and one of them answered the door. And my little brother was shot first. And he died, right, not too far from the door. And my mother came out of her bedroom, and then they shot her. Because that was the understanding that I got. And the thing is, my brother told me that when the police got here, that they wouldn't go inside the house. They had him handcuffed, and they say that my mother, like she went into shock because she had lost so much blood. So my heart goes out to my brother, because he was here when that tragic moment occurred, and he had an opportunity to see, the conditions that our beloved family members were in. And so I have no way of knowing what life has been for him moving forward.
So your older brother gave you pretty much most of the information. He was present, right? He was in the house.
And actually, these are some things that I really didn't learn until recently. Because one of the things that I want to do is come out and have these healing conversations with my family. You know what I mean? Because I understand now what it takes in order to heal. So I came out of here with a mission. I came out of here with a mission to heal my family, to heal my community, right? As a result of all this tragedy that has occurred. So when I'm back out here in the community, it's to honor my mother and little brother now. It's because, they were my guiding light. You know what I mean? They were the watchtower which kept me focused during time. Because when I got arrested, I made a promise to myself, and I made a promise to them when I was in the holding tank on the very night that I got arrested. And I said, since they had died for me, all right, since they had died for me, that I was going to live for them. And what I did to symbolically to embrace that was, I said that I'm going to exercise for the rest of my life. And that day I did 300 push-ups in the holding tank to honor them. And so whenever things pop up, whenever I'm having any self-doubt, I'm talking about during my stint, I would say to myself, what would they want from me? And so being that they died for me and I'm going to live for them, that meant that I had to live for them, right? And living for them meant that I couldn't be involved in that chaotic stuff that I was involved in. But for me, I realized that once I had the opportunity to do the work, to go and unpack all my traumas and understand what motivated my behavior as a child and as a teenager and adolescent, I told myself that I'm definitely want to get out, man, to heal my family and to heal my community. And so it feels good, you know, to be taking that on and to be doing it in their honor.
What were the conversations like between you and your two sisters who have since passed on? Did you get a chance, since you've been home? Well, let me ask you this. What were the conversations like over the phone from prison with your sisters? And then what was it like after you came home, if you even had conversations from prison with your sisters?
So let me say this. There's been so much tragedy in my life. And I know that we all have stories to tell, and you know, we all go through grief differently. But I'm gonna tell you, man, my older sister, in 77, she was drugged and raped, and she never was the same. She was put in a mental institution, and she passed away in a mental institution. She would get out periodically, but she was never the same since that chemically her body was thrown off after she was drugged. So that was my sister Denise, and she passed away in a mental institution in October of 2022.
Did it get worse as she got older, or?
Well, I can say, you know, it's just she was never the same, put it like that. And so I was in prison, so I never was able. She was one of the ones who told me that she never had a brother, that I'm not her brother no more, as far as she's concerned. So I never had a chance to really resolve anything with her. But I know that, you know, I feel forgiven by her, you know. But my younger sister, older than me, Danetta, after 7 years of my incarceration, a friend of hers, Marsha, inspired her to write me. So we started writing back and forth. She came to visit me, and I would call, and we was able to move beyond what occurred.
I used to live right here.
You live right here?
Yeah.
I grew up right here on this block. My name is Chris. I grew up down the street. My mom used to stay on this side, and my dad used to stay on this side.
Who's your people?
Wilson.
Okay, Poncho Wilson, Jamie Wilson.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, I'm Craig.
Chris. Ross.
Yeah.
Man. Oh, that's crazy. Man, God worked crazy. Okay.
It's all
My
good.
mother's name is Beth.
Beth, yeah.
Yeah, I remember she was telling me stories of what happened to your family. My condolences.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Damn, that was you. Oh, this is.
Yeah.
Your brother David.
David, yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, man. I think about that. You know what I'm saying? Every time, you know what I'm saying? My mother. You
It's
my
all
brother
good.
Aaron.
Yeah, Aaron.
Yeah, that's my oldest brother.
Yeah, Aaron. Kim. Danielle. Yeah, Damien.
I'm the youngest.
Yeah.
Did you have an idea who he was before you?
I had an idea. I mean, my level of discernment. What I, you know, what I'm saying? Some told me that I was gonna go that way. Some told me, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Man, this is crazy.
Yeah, it's all good.
Hey, my
So
mother.
you were just a kid.
When this happened? At
85.
I was 3.
3 years old.
Yeah, I was 182. My mother told me she told me the story.
Yeah.
Numerous times, and my brother Aaron. If I call her right now, she gonna trip out, man. Hold on.
So you have an older brother that remembers this vividly?
My older brother was friends with his brother David. They were the same age.
Okay.
And so they I think they went to school together, something
Yeah,
like that.
John Muir.
So your older brother's about 53 now?
My older brother is he's born in 71.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's 53. Maybe yeah. So 53 in October the 5th.
Yeah.
Is he still on the block?
He's actually in Northridge right now. He's 92 to my brother
Aaron.
92 to 2017 he retired from the military.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
When I think of Aaron, it's like, wow. Aaron, so you remember Preston?
Preston Shaw, that's that.
Yeah. And what was his brother,
Shaw,
Gary?
and Kevin.
And you remember Georgie that stayed next door?
That's my uncle.
Yeah, Georgie and Jack. What's his mother's name? His sister.
Auntie Jacqueline.
Jacqueline. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's my auntie. That's my daddy's brother and little sister.
Yeah, I heard.
On the other side, the Fat Pancho and them, that's my mama's brother sister. So I had have 2 grandparents on the side.
Yeah. I remember that. I'm familiar with that dynamic. I'm familiar with that dynamic.
Man,
Yep.
Hey, this is Trip Lock. So you were locked up or?
I just got out 2 years. I did 37 years. I got out 2 years ago.
You used to make trade?
Yeah, I used to be.
Right.
I don't get down like that no more.
You know what I'm saying? I used to be for trouble, you know, but I don't glorify death style. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about?
That's right.
But
That's what I'm talking
yeah,
about.
man, I'm 41 now, but we're 42. So yeah, man, hey, this is a trip, man. Hey.
Yeah, it is.
I don't want to, you know.
It's all good. It's all good.
Hey, my mother, first of all, you know, first.
But you know, it's interesting just, you know, just coming down here and just like being able to engage the community.
Right
You know
on.
what I mean?
Yes, sir.
And so it just shows that that people still remember me, that I'm still connected. I mean, like everywhere I go, man, it's like you the third person who come out of nowhere who see me out and about.
I knew it was something, man.
It was even we even ran across a Rollin 60. Like it was a trip. It's a trip, man.
Right.
So that just goes to show me that that those are signs. I look for signs.
Yes, sir.
But I mean the universal signs, like signs from God, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
And so when I get signs like this, it's telling me that I'm doing the right thing, that my heart is in the right place.
Right on.
You know what I'm saying? Because
Yes, sir.
ultimately what this is about is being that I was involved in that gang activity, tearing up the community. Now I want to heal the community.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean?
I'm an advocate for that too.
So now that's what I'm about. I'm about, you know, all us rivals coming together, right, and resolving those issues. I know it's like, look, man, I lost the ultimate, right, but able to get to a place where I can have forgiveness in my heart. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
That's really important.
Like I said, I don't mean to cut you off, man, but it's a pleasure to meet you, man, finally, man. Like I said, my mother, you know, shares stories, and you know what I'm saying? I get the chills thinking about it, you just visualize, you know what I'm saying? You know, not to bring back, bring back the memories.
It's okay, but that's what we're here for.
Man, if I could go on a journey with you,
Let me get your, man, I gotta,
Yes, sir.
let me give you my number, then you just hit me.
All right,
I go by Shakur,
Shakur.
but you know, people, you know,
They know you're Craig.
so that's my family name, just so y'all know. I got names. My family name, if what people knew me on the block, was Craig. My family called me Craig ever since I was a little. So, not too many people know about Craig.
So y'all filming this? Right?
It's
So
okay.
I'm on this. You know my brother Aaron?
Yeah, I know Aaron.
Okay, hey, this is crazy. Let me call in real quick. My mother is here and asked her on this about the business. So we were just talking about, because the lady was asking me, you know, the history of the house. The lady, her name is Lily.
She was asking?
She asked the history of the house, and I gave her the lady's brief rundown.
Chris,
You know, yeah, Chris Allen. A-L-L-E.
Alan.
Allen. Christopher Allen is my name. That's
Yeah.
my Chris. Everybody around call me Suge. You know what I'm saying? It's all good. Where Aaron at? Man, what's your name, sir?
Alex.
Alex. What's up? Nice to meet you, Alex. I'm Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Where Aaron at?
Well, yeah, man.
So how long you been out here?
I got out April 2022. I've been out just 2 years now.
I've been out 4. Yeah.
2 years
I gave
now.
my number back last week, or about matter of fact, a month ago.
That's what I'm talking about.
So when you were young, you heard about the story of his mom and his little brother getting killed right here?
Just talking to my mother, you know what I mean, and you know, just history of 51st Street.
Yeah.
Right here up in Normandie, you know what I mean. Just my mother was. I don't know how we came to the conversation about just, you know what I'm saying. My mother was just giving me the rundown of where I come from, you know what I'm saying.
Hey, but didn't Jamie get
Got killed right
killed
here.
on 54th?
Right, where that blue house is.
That blue house? What happened?
Oh, one second. He was I was in the pen when this happened.
And that's his uncle, your uncle,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that was my uncle Jamie Wilson, rest in peace. I was in the pen. It was August 27th, my mother's birthday, 2019. And I got a letter stating that, you know, on her birthday, he had got struck by a car that was going about 80 to 100 miles per hour. I don't know how he didn't hear that coming back. I heard he was on the phone. And so,
What, he walked into the street or something?
he was on the phone talking to his girlfriend. His girlfriend lived in the apartments over there. So when he hit the street, you know, the car hit him. You know what I'm saying? And then it kept going.
Damn.
It's on YouTube. A buddy of mine around the corner said right there at the stoplight, and he went over there to check on him, and you know what I'm saying, and he probably was in shock. I mean, you hit a car going that fast. I mean, and so he ended up passing right there on the scene.
Yeah. Hey,
Nobody found him.
hey, I remember one time Jamie, right, across his house, it was a Sydney. They stayed across.
Sydney Lawton.
Sydney and Donald.
Right.
Yeah.
Rest in peace,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay. I can recall one day Jamie came over there. I had some money, and we was shooting dice.
Right on.
He broke. He took. I was like this. I was like 11, 12 years old, man. I was like, man, don't take my money. I need my money.
You lost it all.
I said, I want my money back, man. Give me my money back.
Yeah.
You know, he was older, but he.
So you remember Uncle Poncho?
Poncho, yeah. I definitely remember Poncho. I remember one time Poncho, my mother asked Poncho to talk to me. So one day, me and Poncho sat right there on them steps right there, and he called himself trying to talk to me about, my involvement in gangs and all of that.
Right.
But at that time, I was already too far gone. It wasn't no coming back from that. You know what I mean? But yeah, and it's interesting. Like Poncho was a brim.
He was a 6'6" brim.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like Terry Cadeau, girlfriend from the Brims, was my friend's Leo's his sister's boyfriend.
Okay.
You know, used to stay on the third house right there.
Terry.
And then another guy named Poncho Bleaking used to stay right across the street.
He's a run with my Uncle Poncho.
Exactly. Exactly.
Poncho been down. My uncle been down since 2006.
Two Ponchos on the same block?
Yeah.
Poncho
Wilson and Poncho Bleaking. Yeah.
They used to run together, I believe.
Look, Poncho hit this corner with the police shooting at.
Right.
You heard about that?
By the jewelry store or something like that.
Yeah.
He went down for that. He got out in 2000, and then he went back in 2006.
Yeah.
And he's been down ever since, but he got action now.
Oh, he out now. I seen him.
Uncle Poncho?
Yeah,
You know?
Yeah, not your uncle, the other Poncho. Yeah,
Okay.
I seen him.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well,
My brother took me around, and when I was down here about 4 months ago.
Okay. So you did 37?
Yeah. Yeah,
man.
I did all of that.
I see you out, man, on Freedom Ground and above it, baby. You know what I'm talking about? Straight up.
Yeah. I
Yes, sir.
appreciate
Yes, sir.
you
Yes,
too.
sir. So you remember, Sean and the Fagans?
Yeah, Sean.
Donald and them.
I seen Donald and his brother, Donald and Ronald.
Okay.
I saw them actually at my brother's house. My sister passed earlier this year.
Sorry to hear that.
And so they came there. And Kenneth Fontenette.
I was just about to say that. You couldn't find it. That's my aunt, Tracy. This is Craig Ross. That's my mother. And
I'm trying to remember.
David Ross's brother. Aaron's friend David Ross.
Oh my
we
God.
right here at the house. He was filming.
Oh, Mr. Ross, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you? Wow.
Oh my goodness.
That's my mother Beth. That's the one who was telling me the story about
Yeah.
of your family.
Oh my day. That's
No,
a
I told you.
horrific day. I walked into your mom and daddy's house.
That's right.
Yeah, saw my baby David. Yeah.
Oh, you walked in that day?
I walked right in right after they left. I had just passed by them. You know the auto shop right there across the street.
Yeah.
They were standing right there across the street. They had on trench coats.
They had on trench coats.
They had one foot on the back of the wall while they were resting on their backs on the wall. And I went on to the liquor store. And when I finally got back home, that's when we heard everything.
How many people?
And then I walked right back.
Was it three?
And everybody said,
Was it 3 people?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. And then, was my brother? Was he laying right there by the couch by the front door?
No.
Where was David at?
David was sitting on the couch. He let him in. He knew him.
Oh, he knew him, huh?
He knew him. That's what the police said. He knew him. He let him in.
He knew him. There's a car coming.
And saw Miss Ross too. It was
Yeah. And where was she at?
was at church.
Where was my mother at when you saw her?
Right in the threshold of her door.
Coming from her bedroom.
Door.
Her bedroom door, huh?
Right here, as you come in, you go to the right.
Yep. Yep.
And she had the sliding door.
Yep. That's true.
She was right there at the threshold of her door because she coming to see about her baby. Or
Yep.
she heard the noise.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, you know, it's so tragic.
I just told this story twice.
Yeah.
To somebody, once to Chris and somebody else asked me. Lord, I was supposed to live to tell it.
Yeah. I don't know what he's doing. He could come. So yeah. Wow. Did you see my brother Lehman there that day?
Lehman already fled, honey, out the back door. He was skipping through the alley. Gone.
Yeah.
And just imagine how I was just telling Chris, just imagine how he felt. He was stunned, shocked.
Yeah, yeah. And then I heard how the police wouldn't go in there when they handcuffed him, and they wouldn't even go in there to try to save Mom.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this, Craig. It wouldn't have helped, sweetie.
It wouldn't have helped.
No.
Yeah.
No. Not what I saw. It wouldn't have helped.
Yeah. Thank you.
My poor friend, Miss Ross. It wouldn't help.
That's my mother.
Yeah.
Beth,
Yeah.
I was telling the mom that, you know what I'm saying, that the stories you had told.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you know, as I was coming up, I was happy to come to the store, and you know what I'm saying, it was it's a wonderful blessing right here, you know what I'm saying, to finally meet the gentleman right here.
Indeed.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I was blowing your phone up.
Yeah.
Indeed.
You can remember all the soda bottles and the crates and everything that used to be back to GG's, and people tried to jump the fence and get them sodas, and you put that barbed wire up there. Remember that?
Yeah. You know all of that. You right.
That's right. Well, take care of yourself. Good seeing you.
Good seeing you.
All right. Take care.
And thank you.
You're welcome, dear. You're welcome. Chris.
All right.
Chris just helped me with my brother, so to tell me about Jamie. So I'm glad I'm still with my right mind to tell you about your brother and your mother.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Right.
God bless you.
They didn't suffer.
Yeah.
They didn't suffer.
Okay.
Welcome.
Yeah. All right. All right. No, it's all no apologies, man. This is beautiful. This is more than I anticipated.
I had to blow your phone up for this one.
Yeah.
You're actually getting information that you never knew before, huh?
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He was he
Yeah.
David Ross had just come back from getting enrolled in
You got a good memory.
Getting involved in Manor Yards. She right.
Say it again, Mom.
I know, she right.
She was asking me something, Craig.
He just walked down the street. He had just come back. He was on this side of the street, and we were on the other side in front of the house. And my son Aaron and David had a quarrel for a few months. You remember this?
I don't remember that. I wasn't involved.
You don't know. And they made up that day.
Wow.
Register for school. He told him they apologized to each other, and Aaron's eyes just lit up to his friend, and he was gone the next day.
Wow.
He was gone the next day.
Ain't that something?
Yeah, it was horrible. And it was horrible for me to walk down there to go in your house.
Yeah, and witness that.
I couldn't believe it.
And
I'll never forget how I saw David sitting on the sofa.
yeah,
And your mother, knowing she was coming out because she had her gown on, coming out of her room and right at the threshold of the sliding door is where her life ended right there.
yeah,
It's a sad thing. And when your father came home, he went to church, and I think he had one of your sisters with him. And he was
yeah,
Mr. Ross was he wasn't no more good after that. Nobody was no more good after that.
yeah.
Anyway, bye, y'all. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Florence and Normandie.
Okay, Ma. I love you, Ma. I'll get you.
Wow.
All right.
Wow. I mean, that's just full-fledged right there. I mean, wow. I mean, see, that's the universe talking right there. You know what I mean? You see what I'm saying? Just to be able to make these connections right now, when we randomly showed up on the street right here, right? You had no idea I was coming over here. You know what I'm saying?
I was actually gonna go the opposite way, man. And, you know what I'm saying? And then, you know, it's like I say, man, it's a pleasure to finally meet you, man. You know what I'm saying? So David was older than you?
No, he was younger than me.
Your little brother.
Yeah.
Right on. Where say you was in, what I heard, you was in the shower or something.
No, I wasn't here.
Okay.
I wasn't there.
Somebody say you was in the shower.
No.
You know people play telephone.
Yeah, I wasn't even here at all.
Right on.
I didn't even live here.
I know if you was, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, it would have been. I was active.
I heard about you. You know what I'm saying? I heard how active you was, like, you know what I'm saying?
But you know, it's tragically I was active, and that death style led me to the deaths of my mother and little brother. You know what I mean? And so, it's for me. Just doing this is about education and not about glorification. You feel me?
Right on.
Like, because that was. You know, I mean, it was being caught up in that ignorantness. It just felt like it was something to do. It just felt like you know, it felt like a lifestyle, but it was really a death style.
Right on.
You know what I'm saying?
Right on. You know, it's unfortunate. Sometimes I think our forefathers, you know, died in vain. So, you know, not to say that in a way to where, you know what I'm saying, their lives were useless, you know what I'm saying, they had an impact on the world. I'm talking about Dr. King and those who have advocated for, you know, black growth and, you know what I'm saying, black prosperity, you know what I mean, and so forth. Man, it's a shame that even since then, the 60s, and then we in 2024, and, you know, it's like we haven't grown, you know what I'm saying, that much.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying, and it's unfortunate. And so how do you think we should be able to, you know, how do you think we should go about growing our community, not just for black people, for all people?
So one thing I understand, man, is dialogue is important. So because you fear the unknown, right?
Yes, sir.
I see you, right? I don't know you. I don't know what you're gonna do, right? You might rob me, I don't know, right? But if I know you, I engage in conversation with you, oh, you're a cool brother. You know what I mean?
Do my best.
But I'm just saying.
Likewise.
But you feel me? By being able to dialogue and engage people in conversation, in real dialogue and real conversations, it brings about a familiarity, right? And it brings about respect. And so when you got that respect, it's like you're not crossing no boundaries. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
And so, but and it's no easy thing though. But you know, it takes people to just. It takes a community.
To engage.
It takes the community to engage, man.
People to listen. You know what I'm talking about.
And to learn, we got to learn from our mistakes. You know?
We got a lot of work to do. Put it like
we got to learn from the harm that was caused to our community. All those things, you know what I'm saying? We got to be able to look at that and learn from it, right? Because here it is. I spent 37 years in prison, and I didn't have not one. I had one Rollin 60, a little youngster, when I was in the ad seg and doing a shoe turn, cell soldiering behind the door. That was one time, but he was a youngster.
Right.
But for the most part, during my stay in prison, not one time did Rollin 60 get at me foul. You know what I'm saying? Considering the beef and how we was involved coming up. Like when I was coming up, it was on. Like it was like if we in the same building, one of us got to represent.
On site.
So for me, I thought I was the hardest. I was arrogant, and my set was the hardest, and I was representing. So whenever I went in juvenile halls, it didn't make no difference who they were.
Right on.
You know, it was going down.
Right on. See, right now, man, you could easily be an advocate to glorify a death style, you know what I'm saying? But
Right.
I want to commend you, man, you know, for the whole, you know, changing your mindset to be able to, you know, enlighten the community, and though you are the prime example of the model of change.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
So you know what I mean? Good to see individuals like you, because you got some cats your age still out there with the shit.
Exactly.
I mean,
Still engaged.
Granddaddies and all this.
Granddaddies still throwing it up. And so, and then at the same time they do it. Some do it because they still feel like, damn, look that bomb.
Is that a Cadillac? A Cadillac?
Look like one, yeah. And so, but the thing is, I try not to judge because I know our journeys are different for each and every one. Like I had my journey into things that happened in my life, which caused me to take a different direction,
Yes,
right?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Some people, that's all they know. And some people, it's not necessarily about, you know, violence. It's just that this is where I grew up from, and this is my set, and I love my set. I love my community. I love where I'm from, right? But for me, when I see the older guys throwing up the gang signs, when the narrative haven't been changed, the narrative around banging is still with the negative foolishness. You see what I'm saying? So when you throwing up the set, representing something that's still with the negative violence, I can't be with that. I can't support that, right? But at the same time, you know what? I see you, and okay, but me personally, I don't bang no more, man. I did that. I was a teenager when I was active.
It's called growth, man. It's called, you know, maturity. It's called, you know, everything is subject to change. Nothing stays the same.
Yeah.
You know, so,
just like that. Just like when the verses go in the Bible. When I was a child, I thought as a child, spoke as a child. I was a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That definitely was a message that I learned inside this house right here.
You know, another verse, I believe it's in the book of Proverbs, where he said, "Man plans this step from God weighs the heart." You know, talk about, you know, so your intentions are good at this point, you know what I'm saying, in your life.
Exactly.
Opposed to years ago, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
You know, man, like I said, I commend you for that. We need more soldiers like you, sir.
Because you know what? That's just it. Because for me, my question is, how can I resolve the seemingly unresolvable past? You feel me? Like, how can I resolve the fact that, yeah, I come from this neighborhood, I come from, you know, and being a trailblazer, because I don't know the route to take.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? All I know is that I want to do some good, and I want to give back, and I want to heal my community. You feel me?
Well, I suggest this, just continue to, you know what I'm saying, speak on your testimony, you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm saying, where you came from and where you're at now.
That's where,
you know what I'm saying, and then, you know what I'm saying, as you're doing right now, you're putting God in the equation, whatever religion you represent, you put God in the equation, and then the rest will follow.
That's right.
Because God is only the truth, and God is love. So you know, say you spread that, it'll pay it forward. I mean, we can't change the whole world, but we can pay it forward to other people. You know what I'm saying? And they pay it forward also.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes, sir. You know what, my auntie Diana, I'd love to see you, man. What you ready to this?
We've been filming since like 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
I know I'm starting to feel a little tired too.
I know, we're about to wrap it up.
Yeah.
We'll wrap it up. Yeah,
Okay. Give me
you want to ask me a few more questions? Yeah, Chris, it's nice meeting you though, man. I'm glad you said something, bro.
Most definitely.
I appreciate you, Chris.
I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna connect too.
All right, so my brother called me back when I know my brother. So I get to the house, I send you your number.
Thank you, brother.
All right. Okay, so
Wow.
right before Chris pulled up, we were just talking about your, I guess, reconciliation with your other sister.
Oh yeah.
The one that was writing you letters.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
finish that part.
So my sister Danetta, her friend Marsha, convinced her to start writing me 7 years into my sentence. So we began writing, and she started visiting me. She would send me package, and she just, you know, she just reached out to me with love and compassion, you know. And so when I got out of prison, I just had an opportunity to, like, she was there when I got out. The day I got out of prison, my sister and my brother were there. Two two of the many people that was there. And I had the opportunity to sit and talk with them that day. Like not only did we go to breakfast together, but we also sat outside the hotel they were in prior to leaving, and we had the opportunity to resolve some unresolvable issues, seemingly unresolvable issues. And I began coming back down every quarter. Once I got my car and I got familiar with driving again, I started coming back down, and I had the opportunity to connect with my sister one of the times that I came back down. And unfortunately, the next time I came down, she had passed away. And the interesting thing about that is, one of the things that I wanted to do with my brother, and when we talk about healing, and I talk about, you know, healing my family and healing the community, one of the first things I did when I got out of prison and I made it down here the first time, I went to my mother and David's grave, and I put flowers on their grave. And I reaffirmed that I was living for them, right? And so the next time I went to their grave was just, my birthday was March the 3rd. And that weekend, me and my brother met at Forest Line. And the interesting thing about that is, not only was I standing on my mother and little brother's grave, I was standing on two recently unmarked graves of my two sisters who had died in 2022 in October, and then February of this year. And not only that, I was also standing on my own plot, a family plot, my own grave, you see? So while I was in prison, I had intentions of coming out, having dialogue with my family about what happened. Because it wasn't easy, not something you could necessarily do in prison. So I wasn't able to have that full conversation with my sister. But me and my brother, we were able to have that conversation. Because that was exactly what I wanted to do. And it was the second time that I had made it down to Southern California. Remember, I came down here, every time I come down here, it's for healing. It's healing the community and it's healing the family. And that's what I'm about.
Now, Chris's mom jumped on the phone and I believe she revealed some details of what happened to your family, because apparently she was walking by when it happened. What's it like to learn new details about what happened, is it 40 years?
Almost 40 years.
Almost 40 years ago.
Next year, 39 years.
39 years ago. What's that like?
So let me say this. Engaging the community, it always brings things to light. One of the things my mother, it brings up a saying my mother used to always say, that many mothers have probably said in our communities: what's done in the dark will come to light. My mother even told me, now that we're speaking on that, she said, I don't know what it is you're doing out there in them streets, but whatever you're doing, I don't want it to come back on me. So she literally predicted what could happen and what did happen. But I want to say, man, just to be on the other side of all that violence, and by being in the community, and for Chris to stop and talk to me, who was a toddler at the time I went to prison, and for him to call his mother, and for his mother to share with me what she shared with me, is really amazing. I mean, for me, those are signs. Those are signs. Like, when I think about signs, and I think about I know my ancestors are there for me, watching over me. I know my mother and little brother are there for me. This wasn't no coincidence. I mean, just like before we came over here, at the house that I lived prior to that, we ran across somebody who was from the rival gang, Rollin 60s. And guess what he said? He said that he went to school, John Muir, with my little brother. That's what he said. And he said that one of my homeboys took off on him at St. Andrews Park, and I stopped it, saying he was just a kid. So that goes to show you where I was at. I wasn't my rival gang members, like I was with the ones who was banging. I wasn't with no innocent stuff. The ones who was gang banging, those were the people who I was banging on. I wasn't with bullying kids and bullying girls in terms of gang activity. Yeah, I had my own issues when it came to misogyny, when it came to homophobia, right? But now I had an opportunity to address those issues. I'm on the other side of that, right? And so when I think about, when I speak about Islamic fundamentalism, right? Some people interpret the Quran to say that people who identify differently should be killed. That's not in my life. Like, you know, and then the Quran also endorses women being beat by their husband. You know, that's also something I no longer support. So for me, my journey is my journey. And what's essential about my journey is being at a place of authenticity. You know what I mean? Like I'm here in front of my house, right? When I moved over here in 1970, I was an innocent child. But I was impacted by this environment in ways that set my anger and resentment and violence into a trajectory that I had no way of understanding. Walking down this alley, six years old, being molested by extended family members, 8 and 9 years old, being molested by a neighbor at 12 years old. So those things had impacts on me.
Now you talk a lot about healing with yourself, with your siblings. Have you gotten to a point where your level of forgiveness would even go towards the perpetrators of the ones responsible for killing your mom and your little brother?
Yeah. You know why? One thing I learned is that anger will consume you. Grief will consume you. Depression will consume you. Revenge will consume you, right? So I got to a place to where I was able to go back and look at the things that happened to me. And I thought that if I want to be forgiven for the things that I've done, I got to be willing to forgive others. So I began looking at the concept of forgiveness. It wasn't easy at first, but one of the things that I had to do before I could forgive anybody else, I had to forgive myself. Self-forgiveness. I had to forgive myself for the things that occurred to me that it wasn't my fault, right? I had to forgive myself for all the harms that I caused on so many other people. I had to forgive myself for that. So for me, forgiveness and self-forgiveness, like I had to forgive the people who committed the sexual harms on me, right? So once I got to that place to where I was able to process that, and I understand that hurt people, that things happen to other people, and they end up taking it out on others. So when I think about what happened to my mother and little brother, I'm here today in their honor, right? living their life because they died for me. So because they died for me, I'm living for them. So ultimately, when we get right down to it, that's what I'm about. I'm about forgiveness, and I'm about self-forgiveness. And the only way that we can move forward as a community is we got to be willing to forgive. We got to be willing to like say, hey, look, this is what happened. Accountability. Yeah, I was involved in this, that, and the third. But you know what? I learned from those mistakes. I learned from those errant ways. And now I realize, man, I was a teenager and I was involved in a whole lot of foolishness that decimate my community. You know, I was like the Tasmanian devil on the community. So again, right? Because I was such a Tasmanian devil on the community, now I want to be a healer for the community. And this is my choice. This is nobody other choice. Because I definitely have a dog in this fight. You know, so I think it's important, you know, as I make my way through the world, you know, as I find my niche. You know, it's important to be able to like those principles of restorative justice. Those are my guiding light. Those would allow me to focus on accountability. You know, list the things I've done, right? The things that happened to me. That's accountability, right? You know, I mean, there are things that I can address with my rivals, right? That didn't result in murder, right? That didn't result in murder, but resulted in other forms of violence, right? That I can admit to, you know. But I think that it's important to be able to talk about these things and be able to allow ourselves to heal from them, to say the least.
While you were talking to Chris's mom, you had asked her, did you see 3 people? And she said, yeah. So you must have been hearing bits and pieces of what happened and who was involved. Do you feel like you have a complete understanding of what happened to your mom and your son and who was involved today?
Let me say this. I wasn't there, so I don't know who was involved. But their names, people tell me names. But you know what? None of that even really matters to me at this point. You know what I mean? Because ultimately, my mother and little brother, they're not coming back. Ultimately, Stanford Busey, he not coming back. You know what I'm saying? But I'm still here, right? And I want to heal my community. So for me, it's not even about the names. It's not even about that anymore, you know? I mean, at one point it was. That was the height of my existence, to get back. But you know, only thing I can go is what a person say. If a person tell me that they didn't do it, then hey, I got to take them as they were. And even if they tell me that they did do it, it's not about, for me, it ain't about getting back, because it ain't no coming back from it, right? And I can tell you this, I definitely ain't going back to no prison cell. I'm definitely no, I was buried. This is what let me know that it's not worth it. So by me being on the other side of that violence, and I'm telling you, man, it's, and the thing is, it's not the violence in prison that make it fucked up. The violence is the things that you are subjected to in that environment. And the things that you are objected to, it's like, it's crazy. And I want to say the dynamic of the prison system has changed so much. It's like, wow, I cannot contemplate what it would be like to start doing a term now, as opposed to when I did it way back in 1985, if that makes sense to you.
Definitely. Well, let's wrap this up with some final thoughts here, standing at the site of your old home, where your mother and younger brother were slain. Let's just some final thoughts before we leave here.
Well, I want to say again, man, I'm the type of person where I come from the heart, right? And I'm about being open and honest and vulnerable. So that's where I'm speaking from. So I want to say, man, it was so tragic to lose 2 loved ones as a result of my actions. I held a lot of guilt for that for so many years because I couldn't comprehend why they would do that. I mean, when you get right down to it, 8 Trays and 60 function together. And then for it to get the way that it had gotten, it's unbelievable. And so for me, I just want to heal the community, man. I want to give back to the community. And if I can say that I can forgive for these horrible things, it's not out of cowardice. It's not out of fear. But it's out of truth. And it's out of wisdom. That's where I'm coming from. It's being informed now. It's out of knowledge now. So for me, I want to say that for all of us, man, if we can put a lot of the hurt and harm that was behind us and move forward in our lives, I'm sure that we can accomplish so much together that we can apart. I guarantee you. I know without a fact that if we come together, with our narratives, with our stories, and we bring about change and we engage in dialogue, right? We'll be able to make a difference in the lives of others and into our communities. So that's what I'm about, man. And that's what my hope is, that at the end of the day, I'm gonna say that Busey's life wasn't in vain and that my mother and little brother's lives weren't in vain. So for me, that's what's coming up in my heart right now.